Okay, Mona, it's time for you to leave, my mother-in-law said loudly. She spoke so loudly that it sounded like the roar of the sea bears in the harbor. We're going on a fancy cruise, just the four of us, right? I asked. But my mother-in-law didn't seem happy. Her face twisted into an even meaner expression. Did you really think someone like you, who can't even keep a house clean, could come with us on this cruise? How audacious of you. Take this money, Clark. A useless daughter-in-law like her doesn't need to have fun. You can't possibly enjoy a vacation at our level. You're too foolish to even understand that. I didn't argue back against her harsh words. In my everyday life, I was used to being treated poorly with no one to support me. I had already given up hope. My mother-in-law laughed rudely and boarded the ship in a cheerful mood for vacation. My father-in-law and husband didn't say anything either. I looked at the three of them quietly, and as the ship sailed away, I waved and shouted goodbye. Best of luck to you. My mother-in-law started yelling back at me, but I ignored her. You're about to go on a trip I've planned for you, she said. Well, it's the best trip for me, at least. Enjoy the surprise revenge I have in store for you. You'll find out the details when you get there. My name is Mona, and I'm a 38-year-old homemaker. I work as a clerk at a medium-sized company. I've been married to Andrew for 7 years. Andrew and I were friends from our college days. We lost touch after graduating, but we started meeting up again by chance. Eventually, we fell in love and started dating about a year later. Shortly after Andrew and I started dating, he shared a secret with me. He told me he was unable to have children because of a condition called infertility. He looked sad when he told me, saying, "If we're together, we won't be able to have kids." But I wasn't upset by it. I never really had a strong desire to have children myself, and I believed we could still find happiness together even without them. So for the past 7 years of our marriage, without any children, we've been living peacefully as a couple. However, our relationship with my parents-in-law has always been difficult. Our house is right across from theirs, and since Andrew works for their company, we see them often. I don't mind that part. The issue is that both of my parents-in-law treat me coldly. My mother-in-law has always favored Andrew, so she doesn't seem to like me much and treats me like a bother. She often tries to pass household chores onto me, which is a common occurrence. She'll say things like, "Mona, I'm busy with work, so could you do the laundry and cleaning?" Or, "Oh, you don't have to cook. I can't eat the food you make anyway." When I explain that I also work full-time and it's hard for me to do everything, she gets angry. She'll say things like, "How dare you talk back to your mother-in-law? You're not fit to be my son's wife. Pack your bags and leave now." On top of that, my father-in-law is also set in his old-fashioned ways. He often says things like, "Mona, when are you going to stop working? You're getting older, so you should have a child soon." Or he'll criticize my education, saying, "What kind of schooling did you even get?" In any case, times have changed. You can have a happy home without children. But that's not the real issue. If I hear more of that talk, I'll call your company tomorrow and demand you quit your job to have a child. Dealing with my in-laws is tough because they're so set in their traditional views. I try to respond politely, but they often respond with even more criticism, so sometimes I just ignore them. Andrew acts like he's unaware of their behavior. He's gentle and avoids conflict, but that's not always helpful. He worries about upsetting his parents, so he sometimes ignores their behavior or even agrees with them to keep the peace. I hate to admit it, but a big reason we haven't had children is because of Andrew's infertility. He asked me not to tell his parents, so I kept it to myself. But it hurts that he doesn't stand up for me when they criticize me. Despite all this, I still love Andrew. He's a good husband who even cooks dinner for me. When I come home late from work, it means we can go out and enjoy ourselves on weekends. Both of us love traveling and have explored many places during our 7 years of marriage. One day, my husband handed me a brochure. "Mona, wouldn't it be amazing to go on a luxury cruise ship? I've never been on one before, only on a ferry." That sounds like so much fun, but we don't have that kind of money right now. Well, let's plan for 2 years from now. We'll save up and work together until then. That sounds like a good idea. We should be able to save enough money in 2 years. Okay, let's do it. So we started focusing on saving money. We avoided unnecessary purchases and did our best to save every penny. Then, 6 months before the trip, my mother-in-law unexpectedly showed up at our house as usual. "Hey, I heard we're going on a luxury cruise. Have you booked it yet? If you don't hurry, you might miss out on reservations." I was surprised by her sudden question and asked her how she knew about our trip. Andrew, sitting across from me, sheepishly admitted, "Oh, I mentioned it to Mom. We'll be away for more than 10 days, so it seemed natural." "I get that. But if they find out before we book, they might want to come with us." I wanted to keep it a secret from them. But my mother-in-law kept talking. "Work might be busy, but it's important to have fun sometimes, right?" I couldn't believe it when my mother-in-law grinned and said, "Of course we're going. My husband will come too." It was shocking. I had wanted to go on this trip with just my husband, not with my in-laws. I looked at Andrew, hoping he would object. I couldn't remember the last time we had a trip together as a family, but Andrew remained silent, and I felt helpless. After that, my in-laws kept visiting and talking about the trip. I thought of asking Andrew, who had suggested the idea, to make the reservations, but he always dodged the conversation, claiming to be busy with work. About a month before the trip, something happened. Andrew went out for a business dinner and didn't return until after midnight. Worried, I grabbed the car keys to go pick him up. Just then, the front door slammed open, and Andrew came in. "I'm tired. I'm going to bed," he said, taking off his jacket and heading straight to the bathroom. I stayed up late, feeling anxious, but he acted like nothing was wrong. Feeling lonely, I picked up his jacket, and something fell out of the pocket. I quickly grabbed it. It was a small gift box with a message card tucked under the ribbon. Without thinking, I read the card, and what I saw shocked me to my core. "Thank you always, Andrew. I love you." My heart sank. As questions swirled in my mind, I couldn't shake off the uncertainty. Who had Andrew been meeting with last night, and who had given him this gift? What did that message really mean? Unable to sleep, I spent the night tossing and turning in the living room. The next morning, Andrew woke up nonchalantly with a big yawn. I confronted him with the gift box and message card. "What's this? Where were you yesterday? It wasn't just a business meeting, was it?" Andrew's eyes widened in surprise. "No, it wasn't like that. It's just that, thanks for helping her with work." "I see. It's quite a passionate thank you saying, 'I love you,'" I remarked. Andrew began stammering and repeating himself, trying to explain. "No, it's not like that. It's just..." Feeling frustrated with the situation, I decided to leave and go to work. Despite feeling uneasy, I managed to focus and finish my tasks by lunchtime. When I checked my phone, I saw numerous missed calls from my in-laws. Feeling annoyed, I hesitantly answered when my mother-in-law called again. "Hey, Mona. I heard you suspect Andrew of cheating on you. Our child would never do such a thing, you know. Even if he did, that's just a man's instinct." Excuse me," my mother-in-law said forcefully before my father-in-law took the phone. "That's right. If anything, it's your fault for doing something to make him cheat on you in the first place. Andrew only cheats because you don't have children and are always working. When you get home, make sure you apologize to my son. Got it?" My father-in-law said, spewing accusations before abruptly hanging up the phone. I'd had enough. My in-laws were painting me as the villain, and my husband, who didn't defend me, even sided with them. After enduring it all for so long, I finally decided to put my plan into action. Then came the day of our departure for the luxurious cruise. My in-laws and Andrew happily got into the car, ready for the trip. I would drive separately to the port and join them there. Inside, I felt a thrill of excitement. "It's going to be a fantastic trip," I said, holding back a laugh as I drove towards the port. But when we arrived, I was surprised to find the port quiet and deserted. I unloaded everyone's luggage and made my way towards the pier, breathing in the scent of the sea. Andrew seemed carefree and playful. Then, just as I was about to board, my mother-in-law approached me with a big smile on her face. "Thanks for booking the trip, Mona. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Don't forget to pick us up." Confused, I asked, "What do you mean? Aren't we all going on this trip together?" My mother-in-law sneered and made a nasty face. "Oh, a daughter-in-law is just a stranger to us. Don't you understand? As long as you pay up, we're fine." I stayed silent. Meanwhile, my father-in-law and husband were happily browsing through travel magazines. Andrew noticed my expression, shrugged, and shamelessly remarked, "Seems like it's true. By the way, I haven't seen any luxury cruise ship around. Where is it?" My mother-in-law looked around suspiciously, noticing the lack of other passengers. "Did you get the right location, Mona?" Don't worry, just enjoy yourselves from here, I said as I watched them board the boat. Is this really the right ship? My father-in-law muttered, eyeing the small boat in front of him. It's just a smaller boat to transfer you to the luxury cruise ship. It's a safety precaution, I reassured them. Don't worry, get on board quickly. I urged them onto the small boat with their luggage. Take care, I called to the boatman as they set off. Goodbye. Best of luck to you. With a big smile, I waved goodbye to them. I thought I heard my mother-in-law shouting something, but I ignored it. Once they disappeared from view, I gathered my things and headed back to the car, hoping for a fun trip ahead. Later, when I returned home, I gathered all the belongings I had before getting married, clothes, appliances, and furniture, and placed them in one spot. Just as I finished, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. How dare you trick us? There's no luxury cruise ship. Where are we? She shouted. Her frantic tone amused me, and I couldn't help but laugh. After a moment, I decided to respond to her question. There never was a luxury cruise ship. I knew you'd try to leave me behind, so I didn't book anything. Do you really think you could get away with this? Where are we? I could call the police, my father-in-law's voice chimed in. The police? That's a bit much. Don't you think? I simply brought you to your wife's hometown. Did you get a chance to see Aunt Mel? I replied. Once again, my mother-in-law shouted. What are you talking about? Aunt Mel, your older sister Mel. I spoke to her, and she suggested bringing you all there. She'll likely take good care of you, I clarified. Aunt Mel, who was like a mother figure to my mother-in-law, had a strong stance against dishonesty. Despite only meeting her a few times at family gatherings, we had always gotten along well. So, I decided to open up to her and share everything I had been going through with my in-laws and husband. As I had expected, Aunt Mel was furious but immediately offered her support. I'll come pick you guys up soon, she said, ending the call. Shortly afterward, I moved to a new apartment closer to my workplace, which made my daily commute much easier. During the move, I collected evidence of my husband's infidelity. He had been careless, leaving behind plenty of proof. By the time I had settled into my new place, I had gathered enough evidence to support my divorce case. With the help of a lawyer, we successfully finalized the divorce. I also sought compensation for the emotional damage caused by the affair. The lawyer who met with my ex-husband, Andrew, reported that he looked devastated and exhausted. Meanwhile, Aunt Mel, a well-known sports instructor in the local community, had been keeping my in-laws and Andrew extremely busy from morning till night. They were now living a life as demanding as the one they had imposed on me. Aunt Mel mentioned that if they genuinely repented, they could be released from their duties. However, my in-laws' family business had practically gone bankrupt, and they had nowhere else to turn. But their struggles were no longer my concern. I simply hoped to never have to see them again. On a brighter note, I've recently met a kind and understanding man who accepts me, including my divorce and all that led up to it. Once his work becomes less hectic, we plan to get married. Although my journey to happiness has been challenging, I'm looking forward to a joyful life with someone who always prioritizes me.
I gave up everything for their dream. The full-ride scholarship to Princeton, my apartment in the city, even the chance at the life I'd spent years planning. All of it, traded for a promise that turned out to be as hollow as the foundation we were about to pour. My name is Julia, and I'm the fool who believed family always comes first. Jules, honey, can you hold this level while I check the measurements? Dad called out across the dusty construction site. It was move-in day, and he was still fussing over details like the porch steps being perfectly aligned. I grabbed the metal tool, ignoring the ache in my shoulders from a double shift at the hospital. Perfect, sweetheart, just like you. He smiled, but his eyes didn't quite meet mine. They hadn't in months. I forced myself to smile back, remembering the day 3 years ago when they'd first shown me the plans for their dream retirement home. Mum had spread the blueprints across our kitchen table, her hands trembling with excitement. "Look at this suite, Julia," she'd said, pointing to the largest bedroom. "It's for you, of course. You're making all this possible." Back then, I'd believed her. I'd believed them both. The sound of tyres on gravel pulled me from the memory. A sleek BMW pulled up, and my sister Vivian stepped out, designer sunglasses perched on her perfect nose. Her boyfriend Jameson was right behind her, carrying nothing but his phone. "Oh my God, it's gorgeous!" Vivian squealed, twirling around. "Daddy, it's exactly like the Pinterest board I made." I watched as our parents rushed to embrace her, leaving me still holding the level. 3 years of working myself to exhaustion, hospital shifts, weekend tutoring, night classes, and Vivian swoops in like she built the place herself. "Julia, be a dear and grab my bags." She didn't even look at me as she said it, already leading our parents inside to discuss furniture placement. I set down the level and walked to her car. Inside, I could hear her voice carrying through the open windows. "The main suite has the best view, right? Jameson and I need lots of natural light for our morning yoga." My hands froze on the trunk handle. The main suite. My suite. "Of course, sweetie," Mum's voice floated out. "We want you to be comfortable." I popped the trunk with more force than necessary, remembering the night I'd actually secured this property. The night I'd signed the papers in Zoe's office, my hands shaking as I wrote the check. My parents had tried to buy it months earlier, but their credit wasn't good enough. They never knew I'd stepped in, never knew I owned the land their dream house now stood on. "Julia!" Vivian's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. "Careful with those bags, they're Gucci." I carried her designer luggage inside, passing Jameson lounging on a box marked "Kitchen, Fragile." He winked at me, and I felt my skin crawl. "Mom," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady, "where should I put my boxes? The ones for the main suite." The silence that followed was deafening. Mum and Dad exchanged that look, the one they thought I couldn't read after 28 years. "Oh, honey," Mum started, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "We've been meaning to talk to you about that. Vivian and Jameson really need their own space, you understand? And the basement guest room is so cosy." I stood there, watching their practice performance. Dad suddenly became fascinated with his shoes. Vivian smirked behind her phone. Jameson just kept scrolling through his. "The basement," I repeated flatly. "Is temporary," Mum assured me, but we both knew that was a lie, just like the promise of the suite, just like every promise they'd made since I gave up that scholarship. I nodded slowly, picked up my box and headed for the stairs. Behind me, I could hear Vivian already planning where to put her yoga mat in my suite. Their voices faded as I descended into the windowless basement, but I wasn't listening anyway. Instead, I was thinking about the property deed locked in my safe deposit box, about the lease agreement my lawyer Zoe had emailed me this morning, about the careful paper trail I'd maintained for 3 years. I set my box down in the dark basement and smiled for the first time that day. They'd forgotten about me, all right. Forgotten that I wasn't the same naive girl who gave up Princeton. Forgotten that I'd learned from watching them that family doesn't always mean loyalty. And now it was move-in day, and they'd forgotten all about me. But they were about to remember. The basement's single bulb cast harsh shadows as I unpacked my meagre belongings. My phone buzzed, a text from Zoe. "Lease agreement is ready. You sure about this?" I typed back. "They just gave my suite to Vivian. Do it." Heavy footsteps creaked above me, followed by Vivian's shrill laughter. I took a deep breath and headed upstairs, plastering on my best supportive sister smile. "Julia," Mum called from the kitchen, "could you help me unpack these boxes? Vivian and Jameson are arranging their furniture." Their furniture? In my suite? I bit back the words, threatening to spill out. "Sure, Mum." I started unpacking dishes, carefully arranging them in the cabinets, while Mum fluttered around, rearranging everything I put away. "Oh, sweetie," she said, moving a stack of plates for the 3rd time. "I've been meaning to ask. You're not upset about the room situation, are you? It's just that Vivian and Jameson need their privacy, and you're so understanding." I gripped the edge of the counter. "Of course not, Mom. Why would I be upset?" "That's my girl," she patted my cheek. "Always so practical. Unlike your sister, you know how artistic types are. Artistic types who'd never worked a day in their lives, maybe. I forced myself to nod. Jameson sauntered into the kitchen, heading straight for the fridge. "Hey, future mother-in-law," he called out, grabbing a beer. "The suite is perfect, those windows. Chef's kiss." Mum beamed at him. "I'm so glad. Julia helped pick out those windows, actually. She worked extra shifts to afford the upgrade." "Did she now?" Jameson's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at me. How generous of her. Before I could respond, Vivian burst in. "Mom, the closet isn't big enough for all my shoes. Can we convert the hall closet too?" "But that's where we plan to store the—" I started. "Of course, darling," Mum interrupted. "Julia won't mind using the basement storage instead, will you, honey?" I watched them all standing there. Mum eager to please, Vivian entitled as ever, Jameson calculating something behind his eyes. Dad appeared in the doorway, looking uncomfortable, but saying nothing. As usual. "Actually," I said quietly, "I need to head out, meeting Zoe for coffee." "Your lawyer friend?" Jameson asked too quickly. "The one who handles real estate?" I met his gaze steadily. "That's right." "Lawyers," Vivian scoffed. "So boring. No offence, sis, but you could really use some excitement in your life. Maybe if you'd gone to Princeton instead of staying here." The room went silent. Even Vivian seemed to realise she'd gone too far. "Vivian," Mum hissed, "apologise to your sister." "Sorry," Vivian muttered, not sounding sorry at all. "I just meant—" "It's fine," I cut her off, grabbing my keys. "I'll be back later." "Don't forget we're having a family dinner tonight," Mum called after me, "to celebrate our first night in our forever home." Our forever home. Right. I drove straight to Zoe's office, my hand shaking slightly on the steering wheel. She was waiting for me, legal documents spread across her desk. "You look like hell," she said, pushing a coffee toward me. "They gave my suite to Vivian and her con artist boyfriend." Zoe's eyebrows shot up. "The suite you specifically paid extra to have built?" "The very one." I took a long sip of coffee. "Did you find anything in Jameson's background check?" She slid a folder across the desk. 2 fraud charges dropped when the victims wouldn't testify. Multiple civil suits settled out of court. He's smooth, I'll give him that. I flipped through the pages, a plan forming. "And the lease agreement?" "Ready to serve." Zoe leaned forward. "Julia, are you absolutely sure about this? It's going to blow your family apart." I thought about the basement room, about Vivian's smirk, about years of sacrifice met with casual dismissal. "They did that themselves," I said. "They just don't know it yet." My phone buzzed. Another text from Mum. "Don't be late for dinner, sweetie. Making your favourite." I showed it to Zoe, who snorted. "Your favourite or Vivian's?" "Vivian's, of course. She's allergic to shellfish, so I haven't had shrimp in years. Mum says it's inconsiderate to cook it." "Jesus," Zoe muttered. "When are you serving the papers?" I stood up, gathering the documents. Let them have their family dinner first. One last meal in their perfect new home, believing they're in control. "You're scary sometimes, you know that." I smiled, thinking of the basement room waiting for me. They had no idea where they stood, but they were about to find out. The family dinner was exactly as I expected. Vivian dominated the conversation while I pushed food around my plate, watching Mum hang on her every word. "And then," Vivian gushed, "Jameson's company might promote him to regional manager. We'll need to host so many business dinners." I caught Jameson's slight flinch. Interesting. "Speaking of business," I said casually, "how's the new position going, Jameson?" He cleared his throat. "Great, really great. Lots of responsibility." "That's wonderful," I smiled, pulling out my phone. "We should connect on LinkedIn." "Oh, I'm not really active on—" "Found you," I announced. Mom beamed at our bonding, while Jameson's face went pale. The next morning, I met Zoe at her office again. His company has no record of him, she confirmed. He's been lying about his job for months. Perfect. I pulled out a stack of papers. I've got everything documented. Texts from Mom promising me the suite, emails about the windows I paid for, bank statements showing every penny I put into this house. And the property deed? Safe and sound. I handed her another folder, plus recordings of Dad admitting they couldn't get the loan, though he doesn't know I bought it. Zoe whistled. You've been planning this for a while? 3 years of watching them favour Vivienne? You bet I have. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Sweetie, could you pick up some groceries? Vivienne has a migraine. Of course, I replied, adding a heart emoji. The perfect daughter, right until the end. Zoe started preparing the lease papers. Market rate for a house this size? They'll never be able to afford it. That's the point. Later that afternoon, I stopped by the house to drop off the groceries. Voices drifted down from the main suite. My suite. Something's not right, Jameson was saying. I tried looking up the property records, but they're sealed. You're paranoid, Vivienne replied. Julia's just jealous. She always has been. Your sister's smarter than you think. Those questions about my job. Please, she's probably still crying in her basement about that stupid scholarship. I quietly took out my phone and pressed record. Every bitter word, every dismissive laugh, all evidence for later. That evening, an envelope arrived for my parents. I watched Mom's hands shake as she opened it. This must be a mistake, she whispered, reading the lease agreement. $3,000 a month? Market rate, I said softly, starting in 30 days. Dad grabbed the papers. What is this? Who sent this? My lawyer did. I own the property. The silence was deafening. Mum's face went from confused to horrified. Dad just kept staring at the papers. You? Vivienne appeared at the top of the stairs. You own our house? My house, I corrected. The one I bought after the bank rejected Mum and Dad's loan application. But, Mum's voice cracked. We're family. Family, I laughed. Was it family when you gave away the suite I paid for? When you stuck me in the basement like some dirty secret? We can't afford this rent, Dad finally spoke. I know. Vivienne stormed down the stairs. You can't do this to us. I have plans. Jameson's promotion. The promotion at the job he doesn't have? I cut in. Yeah, I know about that too. More silence. Then Mum started crying, her go-to manipulation tactic. Julia, please, she sobbed. We raised you better than this. You raised me to sacrifice everything for family, I said. So I did. And look how you repaid me. I headed for the basement, pausing at the top of the stairs. You have 30 days to either sign the lease or move out. Your choice. You'll regret this, Vivienne hissed. I thought about the scholarship I gave up, the years of exhausting work, the casual cruelty of being relegated to the basement. No, I said, I don't think I will. Later that night, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Watch your back, it read. You have no idea what you're starting. I forwarded it to Zoe with a single comment. Jameson's getting nervous. She replied immediately. Want me to file a harassment report? Not yet, I typed back. Let's see how desperate they get first. I lay in my basement room, listening to the chaos upstairs. Mum crying, Dad making phone calls, Vivienne screaming at Jameson. My phone kept buzzing with texts from family friends. How could you do this to your parents? I turned off my phone and smiled in the darkness. They thought this was the worst of it. They had no idea what was coming next. I woke to the sound of shuffling papers in my makeshift basement office. The digital clock read 2:17 a.m. Someone was going through my files. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera, and crept silently up the basement stairs. The office door was ajar, a flashlight beam dancing across my desk. Looking for something, Jameson? He spun around, papers scattering. "Julia, I couldn't sleep and—" I flicked on the lights, still recording. "And you decided to break into my office at 2 a.m. Break in?" He forced a laugh. "Come on, we're family. I was looking for aspirin." "In my filing cabinet?" His friendly mask slipped for a second. "Listen, we both know you're bluffing. No way you could afford this property on a nurse's salary." "You'd know all about bluffing, wouldn't you?" I stepped closer. "How's that promotion coming along?" "You think you're so clever," he snarled, dropping the act entirely. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Actually I do." I pulled out my phone, showing him the screen. "James Wilson, arrested 2019 for investment fraud. Charges dropped when the victims mysteriously changed their stories. Then again in 2021, same pattern." His face went white. "How did you—" "I'm not as stupid as Vivian," I said. "I do my research." A floorboard creaked behind me. I turned to find Vivian in the doorway, her perfect face twisted with rage. "What are you doing to my boyfriend?" "Catching him breaking and entering," I replied, holding up my phone, still recording, by the way. "Delete that right now." She lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. "Already uploaded to the cloud, and my lawyer has copies of everything, including some interesting transactions from Mom and Dad's retirement account." Vivian froze. "What are you talking about?" $50,000, I said quietly. "Transferred to Vivienne's Boutique LLC 6 months ago. Funny, I never saw that store open." "That's none of your business." "It is when they emptied their retirement fund for your failed fashion venture." I turned to Jameson. "Is that why you're really here? Thought you were getting a rich family?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. Vivian looked between us, realization dawning. "Jamie, tell her she's wrong." His silence was answer enough. "Get out," I told him, "both of you, and if I catch you in my office again, I'm calling the police." "You wouldn't dare," Vivian hissed. "It would kill Mom." "Try me." They left, but not before Jameson turned back. "This isn't over." "You're right," I agreed. "It's just beginning." The next morning, I met with an old friend from college who now worked as a financial journalist. "This is quite a story," Darnell said, reviewing the documents. "Investment fraud, family betrayal, hidden property ownership. You sure you want this public?" "Not yet," I replied. "Just keep it ready." He studied my face. "This isn't the Julia I knew in college." "That Julia gave up Princeton to help her family. This Julia knows better." Back at the house, Mum was waiting with her best guilt trip expression. "I found something interesting today," she said, holding up an old envelope. "The trust paperwork your father and I set up years ago." My heart skipped. "What trust?" "The one we created when you were born. We removed your name last year. Put everything in Vivian's name instead." The betrayal shouldn't have hurt any more, but it did. "Why?" "We knew you'd be fine on your own. Vivian needs more support." She reached for my hand. "You understand, don't you?" I pulled away. "When were you planning to tell me?" "We thought it would be easier this way." She smiled weakly. "You've always been so independent." "Independent," I repeated. "You mean useful. Until I wasn't." "Julia." "I have to go," I cut her off. "Zoe's expecting me." I drove straight to Zoe's office, hands shaking on the steering wheel. She took one look at my face and pulled out the good whiskey. "What happened?" I told her about the trust, about catching Jameson, about Vivian's theft from the retirement account. "Jesus," she muttered, "your family's piece of work." "They're not my family anymore." I took a deep breath. "How soon can we start eviction proceedings?" "You sure? Once we file—" "I'm sure." I pulled out my phone, showing her the latest text from Jameson. "Last chance to back down." "Okay then." Zoe grabbed her laptop. "Let's burn it all down." I thought about the trust, about years of lies, about the basement room they thought I deserved. Yes, I said, let's burn it all down. The confrontation I'd been waiting for started at breakfast. Mum and Dad cornered me in the kitchen, their faces grim. We need to talk, Dad said, holding up the eviction notice Zoe had sent yesterday. Now you want to talk? I poured my coffee calmly. After removing me from the trust? After giving away my suite? We raised you, Mum's voice cracked. You wouldn't throw your family out. Watch me. Dad slammed his hand on the counter. Damn it, Julia, we gave you everything. Everything? I laughed. Let's talk about everything. Let's talk about working 3 jobs while Vivian partied through college. About missing my best friend's wedding because you needed help with the down payment. About giving up Princeton. You chose to stay, Mum whispered. Did I? Or did you guilt me into it? Family comes first, Julia. We need you, Julia. Don't be selfish, Julia. Heavy footsteps on the stairs announced Vivian's arrival. Still playing victim, sis? Still hiding your theft from Mum and Dad's retirement fund? Mum's head snapped up. What theft? Show them, Vivian. Tell them about the 50 grand you blew on your fake fashion business. Vivian's face went pale. That's not... I was going to pay it back. With what money? I turned to Dad. Did you know about this when you cut me from the trust? Or were you too busy making sure your favourite daughter was taken care of? Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. I knew about the land purchase, he said quietly. I let your mother believe we owned it. Douglas, Mum gasped. Vivian needed a home, he continued. You were always going to leave eventually, Julia. You're stronger. The kitchen fell silent. Years of favouritism, finally spoken aloud. Stronger, I repeated. Strong enough to carry this family for years, strong enough to give up everything, and now strong enough to take it all back. Please, Mum tried again, reaching for my hand. We can work something out. A lower rent, maybe. Market rate, I said. Or get out. You bitch, Vivian shrieked. You're just jealous because Jameson chose me, because I'm prettier, because you're a thief and a liar, I cut in. Speaking of Jameson, where is he? Still job hunting after I exposed his fraud? He's meeting with lawyers. But her voice wavered. No, he's not. I pulled out my phone, showing them the email I'd received an hour ago. He's gone, cleared out his bank account this morning. Guess he figured out there's no money left to steal here. Vivian's face crumpled. She ran from the kitchen, sobs echoing down the hall. Are you happy now? Mum demanded, breaking your sister's heart? Like you broke mine, over and over. We did our best, Dad said weakly. Your best was making sure I knew I'd always come second, that nothing I sacrificed was ever enough. I stood up. Well, now, you can all experience what it feels like to lose everything. Julia, wait, Mum called after me. You have 10 days left to decide, I said, not turning around. Sign the lease or get out. Then I'm done with all of you. I walked out to my car, hands shaking as I pulled out my phone. Darnell answered on the first ring. You okay? You sound weird. I need to not be here right now. Come over, he said immediately. I'll order that terrible pizza you like. An hour later, I sat on his couch telling him everything. Remember when we talked about moving to New York after graduation? He asked, before you stayed for them. That was a different life. It doesn't have to be. He handed me another slice of pizza. The firm I work for is expanding. They need someone with medical background for their legal team. I stared at him. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a chance at the life you gave up. He smiled. You're not done yet, Julia. This is just the beginning. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom. Please come home. We can fix this. I turned off my phone and looked at Darnell. Tell me more about New York. But even as he talked about opportunities and fresh starts, I knew I couldn't leave. Not yet. Not until they understood exactly what they'd lost. I'm not done yet, I agreed, but not for the reasons he thought. I have to see this through. Darnell studied my face. Just don't lose yourself in the revenge. I already lost myself trying to be their perfect daughter, I said. This time, I'm doing things my way. The final notice arrived on a Tuesday. I hand-delivered it myself, watching their faces as they read the words, "Eviction pending." 3 days, I said into the silence. Sign the lease or get out. Vivian launched herself off the couch. You heartless witch! Jameson left me because of you! Jameson left because he realized there was no money to steal. That's not true. He loved me, like he loved his other victims. I pulled out a folder. Should we call Sandra from Phoenix? Or maybe Michael from Tampa? I'm sure they'd love to hear from him. Mum stepped between us. Stop it, both of you. Julia, this has gone far enough. Has it? I opened the folder. Let's talk about Vivian's other secrets, like the credit cards she opened in your name. Dad's head snapped up. What credit cards? Show them, Viv. Show them the bills you've been hiding. Vivian's face went from rage to panic. I was going to pay them off. With what? I pressed. The money you stole from their retirement or the trust fund you didn't earn? You're just bitter, she screamed. You always tried to earn love. We never needed you to. You're just bitter. You lost everything following rules. The truth of it hit like a physical blow. All these years, that's exactly what I'd done. Followed their rules, earned their love, played their game. You're right, I said quietly. I did lose everything following rules, their rules, but now we're playing by mine. My phone buzzed, a news alert. I smiled, knowing what it was before I looked. Oh, interesting, I said, holding up my phone. Looks like Jameson's past finally caught up with him. Front page news. Vivian grabbed the phone, her face crumpling as she read the headline, Serial fraudster James Wilson exposed, multiple victims come forward. You did this, she whispered. I made one phone call. Your boyfriend did the rest himself. She threw my phone across the room. I hate you. Vivienne, Mom gasped. No, let her talk, I said calmly. Let her show you who she really is, who you raised her to be. And what about who we raised you to be? Dad demanded. You raised me to be useful, to sacrifice, to give and give until there was nothing left. I retrieved my phone. Congratulations, you succeeded. A rock crashed through the window, making us all jump. Attached was a note. You'll regret this. Jameson, Vivian breathed. He's here. I was already dialing. Yes, officer, I'd like to report a threat and vandalism. Yes, I have security cameras. I smiled at Vivian. Did I forget to mention those? Within minutes, police lights flashed outside. I watched from the window as they found Jameson hiding in his car down the street. You're destroying this family, Mum said behind me. No, Mum, you did that years ago. I'm just making it official. I headed for the basement to pack my things, but something caught my eye in the attic access. A letter, yellowed with age, fluttered down when I pulled the cord. My hands shook as I recognized Mum's handwriting. Dearest Julia, thank you for everything you've sacrificed for this family. Your father and I know it hasn't been fair, but Vivian needs us more. She always has. We never intended for you to stay. You were meant for bigger things. Perhaps that's why it was so easy to take advantage of your love. We knew you could survive it. Love, Mum. The date on the letter was from 3 years ago, right after I gave up Princeton. I walked back upstairs in a daze. Mum took one look at the letter in my hands and went pale. Where did you find that? Does it matter? My voice was surprisingly steady. You knew. All this time, you knew exactly what you were doing to me. Julia, save it. I handed her the eviction notice. 3 days, not 1 minute more. That night, my phone lit up with messages. Family friends calling me heartless. Relatives begging me to reconsider. Vivian's tearful voicemails. One message stood out, from Darnell. Just heard from the firm. The job is yours if you want it. Time to choose your own path. I looked around my basement room, remembering years of choices made for others, of sacrifices that were never enough. My phone buzzed again, Zoe this time. "Congrats, landlady!" But I didn't smile. Instead, I felt hollow, empty. "It doesn't feel like I won," I texted back. "Just ended something." "Sometimes," she replied. "That's the same thing." The final meeting happened in the kitchen, where everything important in our family had always happened. Mum, Dad, and Vivian sat on one side of the table. I stood on the other, the lease agreement between us. 15 days, I said. That's how long you have to decide. Mum's hands trembled as she reached for the papers. 3,000 a month. We can't. Then the choice is made. We could sell some things, Dad suggested weakly. Maybe if we all contributed. Vivian snorted. With what money? Julia got Jameson arrested, remember? Jameson got himself arrested, I corrected. Just like you got yourself into credit card debt. At least I lived my life, she shot back. While you were playing martyr, I was actually happy. Happy spending their retirement fund? Happy watching them give me the basement while you took everything? Girls, please, Mum interrupted. We need to focus. Julia, surely we can negotiate. No. I pushed the papers closer. Sign or leave. Those are your only options. Dad stood up suddenly. This isn't right. We're your parents. Were you my parents when you removed me from the trust? When you read that letter and still took advantage of me? His face crumpled. We always thought you'd be okay. I am okay. That's the problem, isn't it? I survived everything you did to me, and now I'm stronger than all of you. The doorbell rang. Zoe walked in, briefcase in hand. Time's up, she announced. What's it going to be? Mum started crying, real tears this time, not the manipulative ones I'd grown up with. We'll leave, she whispered. Mum, Vivian shrieked, you can't be serious. We don't have a choice, sweetie. Mum reached for my hand across the table. I pulled back. Julia, please. 15 days, I repeated. I want you gone by then. Where are we supposed to go? Vivian demanded. Not my problem. I'll tell everyone what you did, she threatened, how you destroyed this family. Go ahead, I smiled. Tell them how you stole from our parents, how you lied about Jameson, how you took and took until there was nothing left. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. The frame cracked. An old family photo, all of us smiling like we meant it. I have something else, Zoe said, pulling out another document. An offer from Highland Realty. They want to lease the property, triple the market rate. Mum's head snapped up. Triple? For a corporate retreat venue, Zoe continued, they'll take excellent care of the property. The property, Dad repeated dully. Our dream home. My property, I corrected. My home, and yes, I'm accepting their offer. You're really doing this, Mum whispered. You're really choosing money over family. No, I'm choosing myself for the first time in my life. They left one by one. Dad first, then Mum, finally Vivian, who couldn't resist one last parting shot. I hope you're happy alone in your big empty house. After they were gone, Zoe turned to me. You okay? No. I picked up the broken picture frame. But I will be. The Highland offer is real, she said. 9,000 a month, guaranteed income. You could quit nursing, go back to school. Go to New York, I finished. Take Darnell's job offer. Is that what you want? I looked around the kitchen. The dream home that had cost me everything. What I want, I said slowly, is to never feel this way again. My phone buzzed. A text from Darnell. Dinner tonight? We should celebrate. Celebrate what? I texted back. Your freedom, he replied. Zoe gathered the signed papers. Want me to file these now? Yes. I took one last look at the broken family photo. It's done. Later that night, I met Darnell at our favourite restaurant. He raised his glass. To new beginnings? I thought about the empty house waiting for me, about the Highland Realty offer, about New York. To karma, I said instead, and consequences. You're really leaving? He asked. As soon as Highland takes possession. I took a sip of wine. I hear New York needs nurses too. He smiled. And lawyers who understand medical cases. My phone buzzed again. Mom, of course. I declined the call. They'll never forgive you, he said quietly. I know. I set down my glass. But for the first time, I don't care. To karma then, he agreed, clinking his glass against mine. And to the Julia who finally chose herself. The moving truck pulled away, leaving Mom, Dad and Vivian standing on the sidewalk with their remaining possessions. They'd waited until the last possible day to leave. Need help with those boxes? I asked, not moving from the porch. Like you care, Vivian snapped, mascara running down her face. Mum stepped forward. Julia, please, one last time, reconsider. Why? So you can take advantage of me again? We made mistakes, Dad said. Terrible ones, but we're still family. I pulled out Mum's letter from my pocket. Family doesn't write letters planning to use someone's love against them. Mum flinched. I never meant for you to find that. That's worse, Mum, that's so much worse. A sleek car pulled up, the Highland Realty executives, right on time. Ms. Ramirez? A woman in a sharp suit approached. We're ready for the final walk-through. Perfect, I turned to my family. You should go now. Where? Vivienne demanded. Where are we supposed to go? Aunt Sarah offered you her guest house, I reminded them. Maybe this time you'll appreciate someone's generosity. Dad started loading boxes into their car while Mum made one last attempt. What about your things, your childhood memories? I took what matters. I gestured to the house. The rest can burn. The Highland executive cleared her throat. About that offer. We'd like to increase it. The property's potential is exceptional. I saw Mum's eyes widen at the implied amount. Even now she was calculating. The papers are ready, I said. Let's go inside. Julia, Vivienne called out as I turned away. I'm sorry about everything. I paused. No, you're not. You're sorry you lost. Inside, Darnell waited with the contracts. He'd taken time off work to help with the transition. They're really leaving, he said, watching through the window. They have to. Finally. The Highland team moved through the house efficiently, making notes and plans. I signed where indicated, each signature feeling lighter than the last. When do you start in New York? The executive asked. Next month. The nursing license transfer just came through. And the law firm's waiting, Darnell added. My phone buzzed. Zoe. Done. Property transfer complete. You're officially the landlord of a corporate retreat. I walked through the house one last time, my footsteps echoing on the tile floors. In the kitchen, Mum had left her favourite mug, a final manipulation attempt. Outside, they were still loading their car. Vivian sat on the curb, crying. Dad looked lost. Mum watched the house like she could will it back into her possession. I stepped onto the porch. I found your mug. Mum's face lit up. Oh, sweetie. I dropped it into the trash. Don't forget anything else. You won't be allowed back in. You're really this cold. Vivian stood up. After everything? After everything, I agreed. That's exactly why. Dad closed the car trunk. Where did we go wrong? When you taught me that love had to be earned, I said. When you made me compete for basic decency. When you chose her over me every single time. We didn't, Mum started. The letter, Mum, you wrote it all down. They got into their car slowly, like they were still waiting for me to change my mind, to be the Julia they could use again. I got into Princeton again, I called out as they started the engine. They saved my spot. All these years they believed in me more than you did. Mum's face crumpled. Dad wouldn't look at me. Vivian just stared straight ahead. I watched them drive away, feeling nothing but relief. Darnell came out to join me. Ready? Almost. I walked back inside, through the empty rooms that had cost me so much. My footsteps echoed differently now, like freedom instead of prison bars. In the basement, I looked at my old room one last time, the windowless space they thought I deserved. Never again, I whispered. Upstairs, the Highland team was already planning renovations. The house would become something new, something that had nothing to do with broken promises or family betrayal. Now I'm ready, I told Darnell. He handed me a postcard of the Princeton campus. No more basements. No more earning, love, I agreed. We walked out together, leaving the door unlocked for the renovation crew. I didn't look back at the house. My house, but not my home. Never my home. This isn't an ending, Darnell said as we reached his car. No, I smiled, thinking of New York, of Princeton, of a future without manipulation disguised as love. This is just the beginning. My phone stayed silent. No more texts from Mum. No more crying voicemails from Vivian. No more guilt. Just freedom. Just me. Finally, wonderfully, completely me.
I stood in the grand ballroom of the Belmont Hotel, watching my mother's perfectly manicured hand wave dismissively as she laughed. "Oh, Bethany? She's our cautionary tale. Some daughters learn to soar, others—" She didn't finish the sentence, but her companion's knowing chuckle said enough. "My name is Bethany, and I'm the cautionary tale who just bought this hotel. 5 years ago, I would have shrunk away from that laugh, found a corner to hide in, maybe even cried. Now, I simply adjusted my Cartier watch and continued reviewing the gala setup with our event coordinator. The crystal chandeliers caught my reflection. Tailored black dress, elegant updo, red-soled heels that cost more than my old monthly rent. Success is the best revenge, they say. But I prefer it served with a side of karma. Mrs. Foster, where would you like the donor recognition wall?" The coordinator's voice pulled me back to the present. "Center stage, please. I want everyone to see exactly who's supporting tonight's cause." I smiled, knowing my family's names wouldn't be among the platinum donors. They could barely afford the basic admission tickets. "Bethany? Is that really you?" A familiar voice made my spine stiffen. Jesse, my ex-fiancé, current brother-in-law, and the first domino in my family's betrayal. I turned slowly, embodying every ounce of poise Lucian's corporate training had instilled in me. "Jesse, how nice of you to come support children's education." My voice was honey-coated ice. He looked exactly as I remembered, just slightly softer around the middle, his golden boy charm starting to tarnish at the edges. "You look different. Amazing, actually. I heard you'd left town, but—" "Jesse, there you are!" My sister Layla's voice cut through our conversation like a knife through butter. She sashayed over, still stunning in that effortless way that had made her the upgrade in our family's eyes. Her steps faltered when she saw me, recognition dawning slowly. "Hello, sister." I smiled, watching colour drain from her face. "Lovely to see you both supporting such an important cause, though I'm surprised you could afford the tickets, given the recent difficulties with Dad's company." Layla's perfectly glossed lips parted in shock. You're running this?" "Oh, much more than that." I gestured to Zoe, my PR director, who was approaching with purpose. "Zoe, please ensure Mr. and Mrs. Knight have proper seating. Not at the main table, of course. Perhaps near the kitchen." "You can't—" Layla started, but I was already walking away, heels clicking against marble floors. I caught snippets of their heated whispers behind me. Did you know she'd be here? Why didn't anyone tell us? She looks so expensive. The next hour was a blur of final preparations and greeting early arrivals. I watched my parents enter, my father's confident stride betraying no hint of his company's precarious position. Mother's eyes swept the room like a queen surveying her kingdom until they landed on me. The recognition was immediate, followed by calculation. "Bethany, darling," she air-kissed in my direction, as if the last 5 years hadn't happened, as if she hadn't helped destroy my life. "We had no idea you were involved with this lovely event. You should have told us." "Should I have?" I raised an eyebrow. "Like you told me about Jessie and Layla?" Her smile faltered for a microsecond. "Ancient history, darling. We all move on, don't we? And clearly you've done well for yourself. Though I must ask, who are you working for? This event must have such an impressive budget." Before I could answer, the room's energy shifted. Heads turned, conversations hushed, and my mother's eyes widened as Lucian Foster, my husband, CEO of Octagon Enterprises, and the man about to destroy my father's company, walked through the doors. "Actually, Mother," I said softly, watching her face as Lucian made his way toward us, "I'm not working for anyone. I'm chairing this event. And I believe you know my husband." The color drained from her face as Lucian's arm slipped around my waist, his kiss landing softly on my cheek. "Everything ready, love?" he asked, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. I smiled, feeling the weight of every eye in the room. "Perfect timing, darling. Mother was just asking about our involvement with the charity." My mother stood frozen, processing the implications. Across the room, I saw Layla grab Jessie's arm, whispering urgently. My father had stopped mid-conversation with a potential investor, his face ashen. "Shall we begin?" I asked Lucian, but my eyes were on my family. The cautionary tale was about to become a nightmare, and I couldn't wait for the show to start. The memory hit me like a slap as I watched Jessie fidget with his bow tie across the room. 5 years ago, I'd found them in our apartment, the one Jessie and I had picked for our future. Layla's perfume had lingered in the air, her earring glinting on our bedside table. When I confronted him, he'd just shrugged. "Your sister understands me better," he'd said. "She gets where I want to go in life." "Mrs. Foster?" Hassan's voice pulled me back to the present. "The financial reports you requested." He handed me a sleek folder, his expression grim. "It's worse than we thought. Your father's company has been cooking the books for years." I smiled, tucking the folder into my clutch. Perfect timing. Zoe appeared at my elbow, champagne in hand. "Girl, your sister's been trying to get Lucian's attention for the past 20 minutes. She has no idea he's your husband, does she?" "No." I sipped my water, watching Layla laugh too loudly at something Lucian said. "And neither does anyone else, except you and Hassan. Let's keep it that way until the announcement." "Bethany." Jessie's voice behind me made my shoulders tense. "Can we talk? Privately?" I turned, finding him closer than I expected. His cologne was different now, probably Layla's choice. "I'm quite busy, Jessie. The gala—" "Please." His voice cracked slightly. 5 minutes. Zoe shot me a warning look, but I nodded. 3 minutes. The terrace. Outside, the evening air was sharp with approaching winter. Jessie leaned against the railing, looking older than his 34 years. "Layla isn't—" He stopped, started again. "Things aren't what I thought they'd be." "Fascinating." I checked my watch. 2 minutes left. "I made a mistake, okay?" He reached for my arm, but I stepped back. "Your parents, they kept pushing us together. Said you were too bookish, too quiet. That Layla could help my career. I was weak. I know that now." I laughed, the sound brittle in the cold air. "Weak? You were my fiancé. We were planning our wedding, and you slept with my sister in our bed. I know, 1 minute, Jesse. Make it count. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. Look at you now. You're magnificent, powerful, everything I thought I wanted Layla to be. If I had known... Time's up. I turned to leave, but his next words stopped me cold. Your father's company is failing, isn't it? I've seen the numbers. We need help, Bethany. For old time's sake. The slap echoed across the terrace. My palm stung, but my voice remained steady. Don't you dare. You don't get to destroy my life and then ask for favors. Everything okay out here? Lucien's voice carried authority without effort. He stood in the doorway, his presence filling the space. Jesse straightened, professional mask sliding back into place. Mr. Foster, sir. I was just catching up with an old friend. I see. Lucien's tone could have frozen hell. And did you find what you were looking for? Before Jesse could respond, Layla's voice carried from inside. Jesse, where are you? Daddy needs to talk to you about something. I watched him retreat, shoulders slumped. Lucien moved beside me, his hand finding the small of my back. You okay? Perfect. I leaned into him slightly. How's my sister's flirting going? He chuckled. Terribly obvious. Your mother's been dropping hints about Layla's charity work and how she'd be perfect for corporate events. Charity work? I snorted. She once complained that volunteering at a food bank would ruin her manicure. Inside, the gala was in full swing. Hassan caught my eye, tapping his watch. Almost time for the announcements. Beth, Zoe hurried over. You need to see this. Your father's trying to corner Senator Williams about the infrastructure contract. I watched my father gesturing animatedly to the senator, desperation barely hidden behind his confident smile. Mother hovered nearby, ready to smooth any social wrinkles. Let him. I straightened my spine. In 20 minutes, none of it will matter. Bethany. Lucien's voice was soft. Are you sure about this? Once we announce the audit findings? They called me the cautionary tale, remember? I met his eyes. Let's show them what happens when the tale fights back. The orchestra began their final piece before the speeches. Across the room, my family gathered like vultures. Father with the senator, mother directing Layla to stand prominently near the stage, Jesse looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. Places, everyone! Zoe called out. Mr. Foster's announcement is in 10 minutes. I caught my reflection in a window, poised, powerful, nothing like the broken girl who'd fled town in tears 5 years ago. That girl died in a bookstore parking lot, sleeping in her car, and planning her resurrection. Tonight, she would rise from those ashes, and her family would burn instead. Mr. Foster, Layla's voice dripped honey as she touched Lucien's arm. You simply must tell me more about your work with children's education. I've always had such a passion for helping the less fortunate. I watched from across the room, sipping water from a crystal flute. The scene was painfully familiar. Layla, the predator, moving in on her prey. Only this time, she had no idea she was the one being hunted. You know what they say. My mother's voice from 5 years ago echoed in my head. When you upgrade to a better model, you have to discard the prototype. She'd said it at our family dinner, right after announcing Layla and Jesse's engagement. Everyone had laughed. Everyone except me. Mrs. Foster? Hassan appeared at my elbow. The video presentation is ready. Perfect. I watched Layla lean closer to Lucien, her dress cut just low enough to be suggestive. And the audio? Crystal clear. Your sister's conversation with you earlier will play beautifully through the ballroom speakers. Mother materialized beside Layla, champagne in hand. Mr. Foster, I hope my younger daughter isn't bothering you. She's just so passionate about networking with influential people. Lucien's polite smile never wavered. Not at all. She was just telling me about her charitable work. Oh yes, Mother beamed. Layla has such a giving heart. Unlike some people who shall remain nameless, she understands the importance of maintaining proper social connections. I moved closer, timing my approach perfectly. In fact, Mother continued, Layla would be perfect for your company's social initiatives. She has such natural grace, don't you think? Unlike me? I stepped into their circle. Hello, Mother. Still playing matchmaker. The colour drained from both their faces. Layla's hand dropped from Lucien's arm as if burned. I was just, Layla started, trying to secure this one too? I finished for her. Some habits die hard, don't they? Mother recovered first, her society smile firmly in place. Bethany, darling, don't be crude. We were simply having a professional discussion about my husband's company? I raised an eyebrow. How fascinating. The silence that followed was delicious. Layla's perfect mouth formed a small O of horror. Mother's champagne glass trembled slightly. Your husband? Layla whispered. Lucian chose that moment to slide his arm around my waist, dropping a kiss on my temple. I see you've met my wife, he said pleasantly. Bethany's been the driving force behind tonight's event, among other things. But that's impossible, Mother sputtered. You left town with nothing. You were working in some shabby bookstore. The best place to rebuild yourself, I said softly. All those stories of revenge and redemption. Very inspiring. Across the room, Father was still cornering the senator. Jesse stood nearby, looking increasingly uncomfortable as he watched our little drama unfold. Ladies and gentlemen, Zoe's voice rang out through the speakers. Please take your seats. The presentation is about to begin. You should find your tables. I smiled at my mother and sister. I believe you're seated near the kitchen. The acoustics are quite good there. You won't miss a word. Mother grabbed Layla's arm, pulling her away. I caught snippets of their urgent whispers. Did you know? How could she? What will people say? You okay? Lucian squeezed my hand. Never better. I straightened my spine. Ready to destroy my father's company? After what they did to you? He kissed my knuckles. It's the least I can do. The lights dimmed. On the massive screen, images of children in classrooms began to play. I watched my family settle at their distant table. Father finally pulled away from the senator, Mother fixing her makeup to hide her distress, Layla gripping Jesse's arm too tightly. In a moment, I whispered to Lucian, they'll learn what it feels like to lose everything they value. Status, reputation, power. And how does that make you feel? I thought about the night I'd left town, my car packed with whatever I could grab. How I'd parked behind that small bookstore, crying until I had no tears left. How the owner found me in the morning and offered me not just a job, but a chance to start over. They called Layla the upgrade, I said, watching my sister fidget nervously with her napkin. Let's show them what a real upgrade looks like. The presentation shifted to corporate logos, sponsors, donors, and finally, Octagon Enterprises. I saw my father sit up straighter, probably already calculating how to leverage this connection. If he only knew. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice boomed through the ballroom. Please welcome our keynote speaker, CEO of Octagon Enterprises, Mr. Lucian Foster. As Lucian stood, straightening his jacket, I caught Layla's devastated expression across the room. She'd finally realized what she'd been doing, hitting on my husband, trying to steal another man from her sister. Some people never learn. But tonight, the lesson would be unforgettable. The first night in my car was the coldest, I told Zoe, as we watched Lucian take the stage. I had this ratty blanket and a backpack full of clothes. The bookstore's security light kept flickering on and off. Stop, Zoe squeezed my arm. You're not that girl anymore. On stage, Lucian commanded attention effortlessly. Tonight isn't just about charity, his voice carried through the ballroom. It's about integrity, about consequences. I caught Jesse shifting uncomfortably in his seat. He kept glancing between Lucian and me, his face growing paler by the minute. Layla noticed his distraction and jabbed him with her elbow. As CEO of Octagon Enterprises, Lucian continued, I believe in accountability. In the coming weeks, we'll be conducting comprehensive audits of all our partner companies. Father's champagne glass froze halfway to his lips. Speaking of partners, Hassan murmured beside me, your father's been trying to reach our financial department all week. Seems he's desperate to secure that infrastructure contract before the audit. Mr. Foster! Father suddenly stood, raising his glass. If I might interrupt, I'd like to propose a toast to your exceptional leadership. The room rippled with awkward murmurs. Lucian's smile remained diplomatic. Thank you, Mr. Lowe, but perhaps we should save the toasts for— No, please! Father stepped forward, his desperation barely concealed. Everyone here should know about our long-standing partnership. Why, Octagon Enterprises has been crucial to my company's success. Daddy, sit down, Layla hissed, mortified. I felt a presence beside me and turned to find Jesse, his face drawn. Bethany, please, whatever you're planning. Planning? I raised an eyebrow. I'm just watching my father make a fool of himself, rather like you did with my sister. You don't understand. If that contract falls through, I'll lose everything? I finished for him. Funny how that feels, isn't it? On stage, Lucian was handling Father's interruption with practiced ease. Yes, we value all our partnerships, which is why transparency is so important. Hassan, would you join me? Hassan straightened his tie and headed for the stage. Father's face went from desperate to ashen. Remember the bookstore owner? I turned back to Jessie. Margaret. She found me crying in her parking lot at 6 a.m., offered me coffee, then a job, said broken things could be rebuilt stronger. Bethany. She introduced me to Lucian. He came in looking for first editions. I was shelving books in my second-hand clothes, but he saw something in me that you and my family missed. Hassan was now displaying financial graphs on the screen. Father had sunk back into his chair, Mother clutching his arm. Your sister, Jessie's voice cracked. She's not what I thought. Nothing like you. No, I agreed. She's exactly what you deserve. Layla was storming toward us, her face twisted with fury. What did you do? She demanded. Daddy looks like he's about to faint. Karma, I smiled. It's a fascinating concept, rather like upgrading to a better model, wouldn't you say? You vindictive little— Ladies and gentlemen, Hassan's voice cut through the tension. Our preliminary audits have revealed some concerning discrepancies in several partner companies. Most notably— Stop! Father lurched to his feet again. This is inappropriate for a charity event. On the contrary, Lucian stepped forward. This charity focuses on education. What better lesson than showing children the importance of honest business practices? The screen behind him filled with damning numbers. I watched my father's empire crumble in real time, each figure another nail in his professional coffin. You planned this. Layla grabbed my arm. You married him just to destroy us. I carefully removed her hand. No, sister. I married him because he loved me. Destroying you is just a bonus. Companies found in violation, Hassan continued, will be immediately suspended from all contracts pending full investigation. Mother was openly crying now. Father had collapsed into his chair, his face grey. Around them, other guests were already shifting away, creating a bubble of social isolation. Jessie, Layla turned to her husband. Do something! But Jessie was staring at me with a mixture of regret and fear. It's over, Layla. We did this to ourselves. Over? She laughed hysterically. Nothing's over. Daddy will fix this. He always fixes everything. Not this time, I said softly. The cautionary tale just rewrote herself. On stage, Lucian was wrapping up. And now, I'd like to thank the person who made tonight possible. My wife, Bethany Foster. The spotlight found me. Applause filled the room. I stepped forward, leaving my sister and her husband behind, moving toward the stage where my husband waited. 5 years ago, I'd fled this town in tears, broken and humiliated. Tonight, I walked through it in Louboutins, my head high, their world crumbling at my feet. Some might call it revenge. I called it justice. Bethany? A familiar voice stopped me as I left the stage. Got a minute? I turned to find Celeste, Jessie's sister, my former best friend, standing there in a midnight blue dress. 5 years ago, she'd been my maid of honor. Now, she looked like she'd seen a ghost. Celeste! I kept my voice neutral. This is unexpected. I left his wedding, she blurted out. Halfway through, couldn't stomach watching him marry Layla after what they did to you. Before I could respond, Zoe appeared at my elbow. B, we have a situation. Your father's making scene by the bar. Excuse me. I started to turn, but Celeste grabbed my hand. I work for Lucian, she said quickly. On his advisory board. He doesn't know our connection, but I've been helping Hassan track your father's fraudulent activities for months. That stopped me cold. You what? Ladies, Lucian approached, his expression concerned. We might need to handle damage control. Peter's threatening to expose some imaginary corporate conspiracy. I looked toward the bar, where my father was getting louder, his face red with alcohol and rage. Mother tried unsuccessfully to quiet him, while Layla and Jessie pretended not to know him. Let him rant, I said. The evidence speaks for itself. About that evidence, Celeste stepped forward. Mr. Foster, sir, I need to confess something. Lucian's eyebrows rose as Celeste explained our history and her role in the investigation. His face softened when she described leaving Jessie's wedding. At least someone in that family has a conscience, he said finally. Bethany. My father's voice boomed across the room. You ungrateful little snake! Heads turned as he staggered toward us, Mother trailing behind him, wringing her hands. Peter, please, she begged. You're making a scene. A scene? He laughed bitterly. Our daughter just destroyed our family's reputation, and you're worried about a scene? You destroyed your own reputation, I said calmly. I just exposed it. You think you're so clever, he sneered. Married the big shot CEO, came back for revenge, but you're still that pathetic bookworm who wasn't good enough for anyone. That's enough, Lucian stepped forward, but I held up my hand. No, let him finish. I want everyone to hear exactly who my father is. Who I am. Father's voice rose higher. I'm the man who built everything from nothing, who gave you ungrateful girls everything. And this is how you repay me? Everything? I laughed. You gave Layla everything. You gave me a car to sleep in and a family who thought I was disposable. Because you were, he shouted, until you trapped this poor bastard into marriage. The slap echoed through the suddenly silent ballroom, but it wasn't from me. It was from Celeste. How dare you, she said, her voice shaking. I watched you destroy her, watched you laugh while she packed her car. You want to know how she trapped Lucian? She rebuilt herself while you were busy destroying your own company with fraud. Security was moving toward us now. Father's face had turned purple. Mr. Lowe, Hassan appeared with 2 guards. I believe it's time for you to leave. You can't, he started. Actually, we can. Lucian's voice was steel. This is my wife's hotel. The color drained from my parents' faces. Mother's perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat. Your hotel? She whispered. Amazing what you can achieve when you're not busy stealing your sister's fiancé. I smiled. I bought it last year. Rather fitting, don't you think? The place where you always held your charity galas? Security began escorting my father out. Mother followed, her shoulders slumped in defeat. Layla stood frozen by the bar, mascara running down her cheeks while Jesse stared into his whiskey. I'm so sorry. Celeste touched my arm. For not being there when it happened, for not stopping them. You're here now, I said softly. That's something. Mrs. Foster. Zoe approached cautiously. The press is asking for a statement about the audit announcements. I looked at Lucian, who nodded encouragingly. Tell them the truth. Octagon Enterprises is committed to transparency and integrity. No exceptions, even for family. As Zoe hurried off, I caught sight of my reflection in a nearby mirror. The scared girl who'd slept in her car was gone, replaced by someone stronger, someone who'd learned that the best revenge isn't just success, it's justice served cold and clean. Ready to finish this? Lucian squeezed my hand. Almost, I smiled, watching Layla collect her things, preparing to slink away. I think it's time for that recording Hassan mentioned earlier. Let everyone hear exactly what my dear sister really thinks about charity work. Celeste grinned. Now that's the Bethany I remember. The night wasn't over yet, and neither was the lesson. Everything's set in the green room, Zoe whispered, adjusting her earpiece. Layla took the bait about the exclusive donor interview. I nodded, watching my sister primp in front of the mirror, completely unaware she was about to star in her own downfall. The hidden cameras were rolling, streaming directly to the main ballroom's screens. Ready? Hassan stood by the control panel. Wait, I touched his arm. I want to do this myself. I entered the green room, closing the door behind me. Layla spun around, her smile faltering when she saw me. Oh, she sneered. I thought this was for important donors. It is. I sat down, crossing my legs. I just wanted a private chat first, sister to sister. There's nothing to discuss. She turned back to the mirror. You've had your revenge. Daddy's ruined, Mother's devastated. Happy now? Almost. I smiled. Tell me, how does it feel to be the downgrade? She whirled around, face flushed. Excuse me? That's what you called me, remember? The prototype? The one that needed upgrading? I examined my manicure. Funny how life works out. You think you're so perfect now. Layla's voice rose. With your rich husband and your fancy hotel, I know what you really are, a bitter, frumpy little bookworm who couldn't keep her man. Keep going, I encouraged softly. Tell me how you really feel. You want to know how I feel? She stepped closer, jabbing a finger at me. I feel disgusted. You sit there pretending to care about charity while plotting revenge. At least I'm honest about who I am. Are you? I raised an eyebrow. Tell me about your charitable work, Layla. The kind you were bragging about to my husband earlier. She laughed harshly. Please, you think anyone actually cares about these brats? It's all networking, you idiot. But you wouldn't understand that, would you? Too busy feeling sorry for yourself, sleeping in your car like some pathetic... The door opened. Lucian stood there, his face hard. Behind him, I could see Jesse, looking sick. I think that's enough footage, Lucian said quietly. Footage? Layla's eyes widened as she noticed the small red lights in the corners. You were recording? Still are. I stood up. And streaming live to the ballroom. Want to wave to your audience? She lunged for me, but Jesse caught her arm. Don't, he warned. You've done enough. Me? She shrieked. She's the one who... Who what? I cut in. Expose the truth? That you're a fraud? That you stole your sister's fiancé and laughed about it? That you tried to do it again tonight without even knowing he was my husband? The color drained from her face as reality sank in. Through the open door, We could hear the murmur of shocked voices from the ballroom. "You've ruined me," she whispered. "No, Layla. You did that yourself." I walked to the door, then paused. "By the way, that pathetic girl sleeping in her car? She owns this hotel now, and she's about to own every property father used as collateral for his fraudulent loans." Jessie stepped forward. "Bethany, please. Save it." I held up my hand. "You two deserve each other. The social climber and the weak man who couldn't say no." Back in the ballroom, the atmosphere was electric. Celeste stood with Hassan by the control panel, both trying to hide their smiles. Mother sat alone at her table, staring into space. "Ladies and gentlemen," Lucien took the stage again. "I believe we've all seen a powerful lesson tonight about integrity and consequences. Now, let's focus on what really matters. The children we're here to help." The crowd applauded, grateful for the chance to move past the drama. But the damage was done. I watched as people subtly shifted away from my mother's table, as phones came out to spread the gossip, as my sister's carefully crafted social facade crumbled in real time. "You okay?" Zoe appeared with water. "Perfect." I took a sip, though I think we just guaranteed next year's gala will be even more popular. "Nothing sells tickets like scandal," she agreed. "Speaking of which, your mother's heading this way." But for once, Mother walked past me without a word. Her shoulders were slumped, her designer dress suddenly looking tired and overdone. "Mrs. Foster?" A young server approached. "There's a Margaret here to see you? From the bookstore?" My heart jumped. I hadn't seen Margaret since the day I left the store to marry Lucian. "Send her in," I said softly. As I waited, I caught Layla watching me from the doorway. Mascara streaked down her face. For a moment, I saw us as we used to be, sisters, before ambition and cruelty took over. Then Margaret appeared, and the moment passed. It was time to thank the woman who'd helped me rise from the ashes my family had created. After all, every good revenge story needs a fairy godmother. "Look at you." Margaret's eyes crinkled as she hugged me. "From sleeping in your car to owning the hotel, I always knew you had it in you." "I had help," I smiled, breathing in her familiar scent of coffee and old books. "You gave me a chance when no one else would." "Speaking of chances," Lucian appeared beside us. "I believe it's time for the final announcement." Margaret squeezed my hand. "Go get 'em, kid." The ballroom hushed as Lucian took the stage one last time. I watched my mother perk up slightly, probably hoping for some last-minute redemption. "Tonight has been enlightening," Lucian began. "We've seen the importance of integrity, of facing consequences. But there's one more announcement to make." Hassan stepped forward with a folder. My father, who had somehow sneaked back in, straightened in his chair. "Octagon Enterprises is launching a new educational initiative," Lucian continued. "A scholarship program for students who've overcome significant personal obstacles, and we're naming it after someone who exemplifies that spirit of resilience." I felt Margaret's hand on my shoulder as Lucian's voice filled the room. The Margaret Williams Scholarship Fund will provide full university funding for students who, like my wife, found themselves starting over with nothing but determination and grace. The applause was immediate. Margaret's eyes filled with tears as Lucian gestured for us both to join him on stage. "No," Father's voice cut through the applause. "This is ridiculous. That bookstore witch helped you steal my daughter." "Peter," Mother hissed, trying to pull him back down. "Actually," I took the microphone from Lucian, "Margaret saved your daughter. When you and Mother were too busy grooming Layla to steal my fiancé, Margaret gave me a job. When you laughed about upgrading to a better model, she taught me my worth." "And look how you repaid us," he shouted, "by destroying everything I built." "Everything you stole," Hassan corrected, stepping forward. "The audit revealed systematic fraud going back years. Care to explain the offshore accounts, Mr. Lowe?" Father's face went from red to white. In the shocked silence, I heard Mother's sharp intake of breath. "Peter," she whispered. "What offshore accounts?" "It's not what you think," he stammered. "I was just trying to protect our lifestyle, our status." "Your status?" Celeste stood up. "You mean the status you built by destroying your own daughter? Well, guess what? As head of Octagon's advisory board, I'm officially recommending criminal charges." The room erupted in whispers. Security moved toward my father again, but this time, Mother stepped away from him. "All these years," she said, her voice breaking, "all these years of looking down on Bethany for being common, and you were stealing money." "Margot, please." He reached for her. "Don't touch me." She backed away. "I supported you when you pushed Jessie toward Layla. I laughed at my own daughter because you said it was for the best. And now we're nothing but criminals." Lila, who had been surprisingly quiet, suddenly laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "Oh, this is perfect. Daddy's a thief, Mother's having a crisis, and little bookworm Bethany owns us all." "Not quite all," Lucian smiled coldly. "Hassan, would you like to share the other findings?" Hassan opened his folder. "Mr. Knight, care to explain why your signature appears on several of these fraudulent documents?" Jessie, who had been trying to blend into the background, froze. I was just following orders." "Following orders?" Layla's voice rose hysterically. "You knew about this." "Darling," he reached for her, but she recoiled. "Don't darling me. You let me humiliate myself trying to seduce her husband when you knew we were about to lose everything." Security was moving in now, discreet but firm. Father seemed to deflate before our eyes, his carefully maintained facade crumbling completely. "The authorities have been notified," Hassan announced. "They'll want to speak with both Mr. Lowe and Mr. Knight." As they were led away, I turned back to the microphone. "The Margaret Williams Scholarship Fund will ensure that no one has to sleep in their car to escape toxic family dynamics. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's creation, building something meaningful from the ashes of betrayal." Margaret hugged me again as the room erupted in genuine applause. Across the crowd, I saw Mother sitting alone, her perfect world shattered. Layla had disappeared, probably to call her lawyer. "Ready to go home?" Lucian whispered in my ear. I looked around the ballroom one last time, at Margaret, who'd saved me, at Celeste, who'd chosen integrity over family loyalty, at Zoe and Hassan, who'd helped orchestrate this perfect storm of justice. "Yes," I smiled. "But first, I have one more announcement to make." I turned to Lucian, taking his hand and placing it gently on my still flat stomach. His eyes widened as understanding dawned. Sometimes the best revenge is living well, and sometimes it's creating a new generation that will never know the pain of betrayal. The morning sun streamed through our penthouse windows as I sipped ginger tea, watching the news unfold on TV. My father's face filled the screen as reporters detailed his arrest. The headline scrolled beneath, "Prominent developer arrested for fraud." "You should be resting," Lucian said, joining me on the couch. "I'm pregnant, not invalid." I smiled, touching my barely visible bump. Besides, I wouldn't miss this for anything. My phone buzzed, another message from Layla. The 10th this week, each one more desperate than the last. "Still trying to reach you?" Lucian asked. "She wants me to help with Jessie's legal fees." I showed him the message. Says she'll make it up to me somehow. Some people never learn. The elevator chimed, and Zoe burst in, waving a newspaper. "Have you seen this? Your mother's filing for divorce." I took the paper, scanning the society column. There was Mother, looking 10 years older, being quoted about starting over and acknowledging past mistakes. "She sent me a letter," I said quietly. "Asked if we could meet for coffee. Said she wants to be a proper grandmother. And? Lucian's hand found mine. I haven't decided yet. I set down the paper. Some wounds need more than an apology to heal. The TV switched to footage of Jessie being led into court. Celeste appeared on screen, making a statement about corporate responsibility and family loyalty. Speaking of healing, Zoe settled into an armchair. Margaret called. The scholarship fund received over $2 million in donations after the gala. Turns out revenge is pretty profitable when it's wrapped in charity. It was never about the money, I said, standing to walk to the window. Below, the city sprawled out, including the bookstore, where I'd rebuilt myself, now owned by Margaret, but funded by me. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Hassan. They found more offshore accounts, he reported. Your father was stealing from his employees' pension funds. Of course he was. I ended the call, feeling oddly empty. You know what's strange? Part of me thought revenge would feel bigger, more satisfying. And it doesn't? Lucian asked. It does, but not how I expected. I pressed my hand to my stomach. I thought I'd feel triumphant watching them fall. Instead, I just feel clean, like finally washing off years of dirt. The elevator chimed again. This time Margaret stepped out, carrying a familiar-looking box. Found these while cleaning the store's attic, she said, setting down the box. Thought you might want them. Inside were books, my old collection from the bookstore days. Dog-eared paperbacks about women rising from ashes, about justice and redemption. You read these over and over, Margaret smiled. Living in your car, working the register, said they gave you hope. They gave me more than that. I pulled out a worn copy of my favorite. They gave me a blueprint. Every good revenge story needs 3 things: patience, purpose, and a spectacular finale. Zoe grinned. Peace, I corrected. The kind that comes from knowing you've reclaimed your narrative. My phone buzzed one final time. A news alert. Father's company was declaring bankruptcy. All assets would be liquidated, including the family home where I'd grown up. The house is going up for auction. I showed Lucian the alert. Want to buy it? He asked. We could turn it into something meaningful. I thought about it, remembering Sunday dinners where I was never good enough, family photos where I was always slightly out of frame. No, I decided. Let someone else make new memories there. We'll build our own home, with our own traditions. Speaking of traditions, Margaret pulled something else from her bag, a small, wrapped package. A gift for the baby. Every child needs their first book. Inside was a leather-bound collection of fairy tales, not the sanitized versions, but the original stories where justice wasn't always kind, but was always served. Perfect, I smiled, tracing the embossed cover. Some stories need to be remembered. Zoe's phone chimed. Layla's giving an interview, she announced, claiming she was also a victim of your father's schemes. Let her spin her stories, I said, settling back onto the couch with my book. We know the truth. Outside, the city continued its rhythm. Somewhere, my father sat in a cell. My mother planned her new life. My sister crafted her excuses. But here, in this penthouse with my chosen family, I finally felt the weight of the past lift. Read to us? Lucian asked, nodding at the fairy tale book. I opened to the first page, one hand resting on my growing bump. Once upon a time, I began, there was a girl who learned that the best revenge isn't just surviving, it's thriving. Some say revenge is hollow, but they're wrong. Sometimes, revenge is just another word for justice. And justice, when served cold and clean, tastes like freedom.
I found the lipstick-stained wine glass tucked between the passenger seat and centre console of Davis's car. Crimson red, definitely not my shade. I'm more of a nude pink kind of girl, which he knows because he's bought me enough makeup over our 2 years together to stock a small Sephora. My name is Saj, and 3 weeks ago I thought I was living a fairy tale. Now I'm standing in our driveway at 7 a.m. holding physical proof that my fiancé is either kissing someone else or has taken up cross-dressing. Given his mother Nora's constant hints about his one true love, Rebecca, I'm betting on the former. "You're being paranoid," Davis said last night when I mentioned how distant he'd been lately. He kissed my forehead in that patronising way men do when they think you're being hysterical. "Work's just crazy right now. The Miller account is killing me." I placed the wine glass in a plastic bag and texted my best friend Emma. "Found something. Come over." She replied instantly, "Be there in 20, bringing coffee and my 'I told you so' faith." When Emma arrived, she examined the glass like a CSI tech. Well, looks like Mother Dearest's precious Rebecca is making her predicted comeback. "We don't know it's Rebecca," I said, but my stomach churned because deep down I did know. "Please," Emma scoffed. "Nora's been dropping hints bigger than her ego. Remember what she said at dinner last week?" I did. We'd been discussing wedding venues when Nora smiled that razor-sharp smile of hers and said, "Sometimes the perfect match isn't the first choice, but the one that was meant to return." Davis had nearly choked on his wine. My phone buzzed, speaking of the devil. "Darling, I've been thinking about the engagement party," Nora's text read. "Rebecca knows this amazing party planner. She's offered to help coordinate." Emma read over my shoulder and snorted. The audacity of this woman. You literally plan events for a living. "It's fine," I said, typing back a polite thank you but no thank you. "I'm handling it." "It's not fine," Emma insisted. "None of this is fine. First the mysterious late nights, then the weird texts. Now this glass. Trust your gut, Saj." I sighed, remembering the first time I caught Davis cheating, barely 6 months into our relationship. He'd sworn it was a one-time mistake, cried real tears, promised it would never happen again. I'd believed him because I wanted to, because he seemed so genuine, because love makes you stupid sometimes. My phone buzzed again. "Davis." "Dinner tonight. Mum wants to discuss engagement party details." "Tell him you're busy," Emma said. "No," I replied, something cold and clear crystallizing in my chest. "I think I'll go. In fact, I think I'll be the most supportive, understanding fiancé ever." Emma's eyes narrowed. "What are you planning?" "Nothing yet," I said, but I was already thinking about the venue's AV system, about the security cameras in the hotel lobby where Davis had been spending his late nights at the office, about how karma sometimes needs a little push. But you know what they say about keeping your friends close. "And your enemies closer," Emma finished, a slow smile spreading across her face. "I'm in. Whatever you're thinking, I'm in." That evening, I sat across from Davis and Nora at some overpriced restaurant, watching them exchange glances when they thought I wasn't looking. Nora was in rare form, dropping hints like bombs. "Remember that beautiful New Year's party when Rebecca wore that red dress?" She sighed nostalgically. "Some things just can't be replaced." Davis shifted uncomfortably. "Mum, please." I smiled, took a sip of wine, and thought about the lipstick-stained glass in my possession. "You're right, Nora. Some things can't be replaced. They can only be exposed." She looked at me sharply, but I kept my face innocent, interested, engaged, the perfect future daughter-in-law. Davis relaxed visibly, probably thinking he'd dodged a bullet. Poor Davis. He never was very good at reading between the lines. Later that night, as I lay in bed beside him, listening to his steady breathing, I made a decision. I wouldn't scream or cry or throw things when the truth came out. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. No, I would do something much worse. I would wait. And when the moment was right, when they felt most secure in their little web of lies, I would give them exactly what they deserved. a show they'd never forget. My phone lit up with a text from Emma. "You okay?" I typed back. "I will be. Start documenting everything. We're going to need proof." Then I turned off my phone, closed my eyes, and dreamed of Karma wearing crimson red lipstick. "He's been in there for 45 minutes, Emma whispered from the driver's seat of her Honda parked across from the Westbrook Hotel. We'd followed Davis after he'd texted me about another late client meeting. I adjusted my phone's camera zoom, focusing on the hotel's entrance. The client must be very demanding. "Sage," Emma's voice was gentle, "are you sure you want to see this?" Before I could answer, they appeared. Davis and Rebecca emerged from the revolving doors, his hand on the small of her back, just like he used to do with me. Rebecca was fixing her lipstick, crimson red. Click, click, click. "Got it," I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. "Let's go." Emma started the car but hesitated. "We could just post these right now, end it all tonight." I shook my head. "That's not enough. I want them all to feel it. Davis, Rebecca, and especially Nora." Back at my apartment, I scrolled through the photos while Emma poured wine. They weren't just incriminating. They told a story. The way they looked at each other, touched each other. This wasn't new. This had been going on for months. My phone buzzed with a text from Nora. "Darling, Rebecca and I are having lunch tomorrow to discuss the engagement party. Join us." "The audacity!" Emma muttered, reading over my shoulder. "She's literally orchestrating this whole thing." I showed Emma my screen, open to Nora's text thread history. "Look at these messages from last month." The texts were damning. Nora to Rebecca. "He's not himself with her. You're the only one who truly understands him." Rebecca, "I know, this engagement is just his way of running from what we had." Nora, "Patience, dear. She's just a placeholder fiancé. There's still time to fix this." Emma's face flushed with anger. "That manipulative Wait," I interrupted, an idea forming. "I'm going to that lunch tomorrow." "What? Why?" "Because," I smiled, "I need them to think they're winning, and I need to plant a seed." The next day, I walked into the restaurant looking perfectly put together in my cream silk blouse and pearls, Nora's idea of proper attire. They were already seated, heads close together, whispering like conspirators. "Saiji!" Nora's smile was pure theatre. "We were just discussing the guest list." "How lovely," I said, sliding into my seat. "Actually, I had an idea about that. I was thinking of inviting Wilson." Rebecca's fork clattered against her plate. Davis had always been jealous of Wilson, my former flame who still worked with me. "Wilson?" Nora's smile tightened. "Your colleague?" "Yes," I said innocently. "He's been so supportive of Davis and me, and he's quite good with cameras. He could document the whole evening." Rebecca and Nora exchanged a look that spoke volumes. "I'm not sure that's appropriate," Nora began. "Oh, but Davis already agreed," I lied smoothly. "He said it was a wonderful idea." The rest of lunch was deliciously tense. When I left, I called Emma immediately. "They took the bait," I said. "Nora will tell Davis about Wilson, Davis will get jealous, and when he confronts me tonight—" "You'll record everything," Emma finished. "Brilliant." That evening, right on cue, Davis stormed into our apartment. "Wilson? Really?" I pressed record on my phone, hidden in my pocket. "What about Wilson?" "Mum said you're inviting him to the engagement party, planning to have him take pictures." His voice dripped with sarcasm. "Davis," I said softly, "what's really bothering you?" He broke, just like I knew he would. I can't keep doing this." "Doing what?" "I've made a terrible mistake," he choked out. "With Rebecca, it started again 3 months ago. Mum kept pushing us together, saying we were meant to be, and I was weak." I let the silence stretch, let him fill it with his confession. "Please," he begged, Please forgive me. I'll end it with her. I'll tell Mum to back off. Just don't leave." I stopped the recording and fought back a smile. "Of course I forgive you," I lied, hugging him while my phone burned with evidence in my pocket. We all make mistakes. Later, I sent the audio file to Emma with a simple message. Phase 1 complete. She replied, "Holy shit, what's Phase 2? I looked at the engagement party invitation on my desk, then at the venue's floor plan with its state-of-the-art projection system. Phase 2, I typed back, is going to be spectacular, because sometimes karma needs an audience, and I was going to give her one hell of a stage. "A joint engagement party," I repeated, staring at Davis across our kitchen island. "With Rebecca hosting?" "Mum thinks it would show maturity," Davis explained, not meeting my eyes. "You know, prove there's no bad blood between past and present." I stirred my coffee slowly, watching the cream create perfect spirals. "And what do you think?" "I think," he hesitated, "I think it would make things easier, for everyone." Of course he did. Davis Holland had never met a confrontation he couldn't avoid. My phone buzzed. A text from Wilson. "Free for coffee, need to discuss the Anderson event." "Who's that?" Davis asked, trying to sound casual. "Work stuff," I said, typing back a quick yes. Speaking of which, I should get going. An hour later, I sat across from Wilson at our usual coffee spot, watching him gesture animatedly about event logistics. He looked good, he always did, but something was different now. The attraction that used to flutter in my stomach had been replaced by clarity. "Sage?" Wilson waved his hand in front of my face. "You okay? You seem distracted." "Davis is cheating on me," I said simply. Wilson's face darkened. "That son of a—" with his ex, and his mother is helping them. "Jesus!" He ran a hand through his hair. "Leave him, today, right now." I shook my head. "Not yet." "Why not?" "Because," I leaned forward, lowering my voice, "I need your help with something first." After explaining my plan, Wilson sat back, impressed. "That's actually brilliant, and slightly terrifying, but mostly brilliant." "Will you help?" "Of course." He reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "Whatever you need." Later that evening, Emma paced our living room, processing everything. "So Wilson's in. That's good. But are you sure about this joint party thing? It feels like walking into the lion's den." "That's exactly what it is," I said, pulling up the venue's layout on my laptop. "And the lions think they're about to feast." My phone chimed. A group text from Nora. "Ladies' lunch tomorrow to discuss party details. Rebecca has wonderful ideas." Emma read it and gagged. "How are you staying so calm?" "Because I'm not their victim anymore," I replied. "I'm the director, and they're all playing their parts perfectly." The next day's lunch was a masterclass in passive aggression. Rebecca dominated the conversation, while Nora nodded approvingly, both of them talking around me like I was invisible. "The string quartet that played at my debutante ball would be perfect," Rebecca gushed. "They know all our favourite songs, don't they, Nora?" "Boo, of course, dear, and we must use those gorgeous champagne flutes from the country club." I sat quietly, taking notes, playing the perfect pushover. Until— "Oh, and Sage," Rebecca smiled sweetly. "I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of changing the seating arrangement. I thought it made more sense for me to be at the main table, given my history with the family." Emma would have flipped the table, but I just smiled back. "Whatever you think is best." Later that night, Davis found me in our home office, supposedly working late. "You've been so understanding about everything," he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "About the party, about Rebecca helping." I turned to face him, keeping my voice soft. "I just want you to be happy." His face crumpled with guilt. "I don't deserve you." No, I thought, but said, "Everyone deserves a second chance. After he left, I opened my laptop and clicked play on the security footage Wilson had helped me acquire. There they were, Davis and Rebecca entering the hotel, timestamp clear as day. Another clip, them in the hotel bar, his hand on her thigh. Another, Nora meeting them for lunch, all conspiratorial smiles. My phone buzzed. Emma. Still sure about this? We could just send him the videos and be done. I want to leave, I texted back. I just need one perfect scene first. The party's in 2 weeks, she replied. What if they suspect something? I thought about Rebecca's smug smile at lunch, about Nora's controlling grip on every detail, about Davis's guilty kisses. They won't, I typed. They're too convinced of their own brilliance, too sure I'm just the placeholder fiancé who'll quietly step aside when the time comes. Emma's response was immediate. Their mistake. I closed my laptop and walked to the window, watching the city lights flicker like stars. 2 weeks. 2 weeks of playing the perfect, understanding fiancé. 2 weeks of watching them dig their own graves. Then, at last, the curtain would rise on my final act, and what a show it would be. The screen needs to be at least 20 feet wide, I told the venue manager, pointing at the ballroom's main wall, and the sound system has to be perfect. For a slideshow? He looked sceptical. It's an engagement party, I smiled. Everything needs to be perfect. Wilson, standing beside me, suppressed a smirk. He knew exactly what kind of slideshow I had planned. Speaking of perfect, he muttered as we left the venue, incoming at 2 o'clock. Nora and Rebecca were striding toward us, designer handbags swinging in sync. Of course they'd show up during my venue walkthrough. Nothing could be left to the actual event planner. Sage, darling, Nora's voice dripped honey. And, Wilson, is it? How unexpected? Just helping with the technical setup, Wilson said smoothly. Sage mentioned you wanted everything to be absolutely flawless. Rebecca's eyes narrowed. That's so thoughtful, though I'm sure we could have handled it. Oh, I insist, I said. Wilson's the best at what he does. He never misses a detail. The implications hung in the air like smoke. Nora's smile tightened. Well, she said, since we're all here, we should discuss the schedule. Rebecca had some wonderful suggestions about the speeches. Of course she does, I murmured, checking my phone. A text from Emma. Package received. Everything we need. Sorry, I looked up. You were saying? Later that evening, during yet another planning dinner at Nora's house, I watched Rebecca position herself next to Davis at every opportunity. Their fingers brushed while passing the salt. Their eyes met over wine glasses. They thought they were being subtle. Remember to get shots of the head table during speeches, I texted Wilson under the table. Already planned, he replied. Camera 2 will be focused there exclusively. Sagey? Nora's voice cut through my thoughts. We were discussing the music selection. Rebecca thinks... Actually, I interrupted softly, I was hoping to contribute something special. A surprise for Davis. Davis looked up, guilt flashing across his face. You don't have to, but I want to, I insisted. After all, this party is about celebrating our relationship. Rebecca choked slightly on her wine. The next day, Emma helped me sort through the evidence we'd gathered. Hotel footage, text messages, photos, all dated, all damning. This one's particularly nice, Emma said, holding up a screenshot of Nora's text to Rebecca. Nothing says, loving future mother-in-law, quite like planning your son's affair. Add it to the sequence, I said, right after Davis's confession video. You know, Emma hesitated, there's still time to just walk away, start fresh somewhere else. I thought about my father walking away when I was young, about how that clean break had left jagged edges that never quite healed. No, I said firmly, they don't get to write this ending. The week before the party, things intensified. Rebecca dropped by our apartment unexpectedly, claiming she needed to discuss party details. I watched her drift through our space, touching things that weren't hers, smiling like she already owned it all. "Gosh, look at this!" She picked up a photo of Davis and me. "You both look so comfortable together." "We are," I said, noting how she lingered over Davis's face. "Very comfortable." That night, I overheard her on the phone with Nora in the garden. "Everything's going according to plan. He's finally coming home." I recorded it, of course, added it to the growing presentation that would be their undoing. The day before the party, Davis tried to kiss me goodbye as he left for work. I turned my cheek. "Everything okay?" he asked, frowning. "Perfect," I said. "Just nervous about tomorrow. I want everything to be exactly right." He relaxed, bought the lie. "It will be. Mum and Rebecca have thought of everything." "Yes," I agreed, thinking of the USB drive in my purse, of Wilson's carefully positioned cameras, of Emma's meticulously organised evidence. They certainly think they have. After he left, I called my mother. "Are you sure about this?" she asked quietly. "Revenge can be a double-edged sword." "I'm not looking for revenge," I told her. "I'm looking for justice. There's a difference." She was silent for a moment. "Just remember, sweetheart, sometimes the cleanest breaks hurt the most." I looked at my engagement ring, thinking about how it would look floating in Davis's champagne glass. "Don't worry, Mum," I said. "This break will be spectacular." The morning of the engagement party, I stood alone in the empty ballroom, watching the AV team test the projection system. The screen flickered to life, momentarily displaying Rebecca's crimson-lipped smile from the hotel security footage before going dark again. "All set," Wilson called from the control booth. "Want to do one final run-through?" Before I could answer, Emma burst through the doors. "We have a problem!" My stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "Your father's here." The world tilted slightly. I hadn't seen my father since I was 12, when he decided his new family was more important than his old one. "That's impossible," I said. "I didn't invite him." "Nora did," Emma spat. I overheard her telling Rebecca it would add a humble family touch to balance out their society connections. Of course she did. One final power play designed to throw me off balance. "Where is he?" My voice sounded distant to my own ears. "Hotel lobby, talking to Davis." I found them by the fountain, my father looking exactly like the Facebook photos I'd secretly studied over the years, just greyer, softer around the edges. Davis was showing him something on his phone, both laughing like old friends. "Say," Davis called out, waving me over, "look who's here!" I approached slowly, feeling 17 years of absence crystallize into something hard and sharp in my chest. "Hello, Sige," my father said, arms opening for a hug I didn't step into. "You look beautiful." "Thank you," I replied coldly. "I wasn't expecting you." "Nora invited me, said it wouldn't be right without your father here." He smiled uncertainly. "I hope that's okay." Before I could respond, Nora appeared, perfectly timed as always. "Isn't this wonderful? Family coming together?" I looked at her composed face, at Davis's nervous smile, at my father's hopeful eyes, and suddenly everything clicked into perfect clarity. They all thought they could control my story. Nora with her manipulations, Davis with his lies, my father with his convenient return. "Excuse me," I said. "I need to check on something." I found Emma in the venue's powder room, already pulling out her emergency vodka flask. "Want some?" "No," I said, surprising myself. "I want to be completely clear-headed for this." "What are you going to do about your dad?" "Add him to the show," I said, pulling out my phone. "Wilson, we need to make one small addition to the presentation." An hour before the party, my mother arrived, taking one look at my face and knowing everything. "He's here, isn't he?" I nodded. "That woman," she sighed, meaning Nora. "She really thought this would break you." "It almost did," I admitted. "For a minute." Mum squeezed my hand. A clean break is better than a slow bleed, remember? I remember. I looked at her, this woman who'd rebuilt herself after my father left, who'd never let anyone else write her story. Will you stay for what's coming? Front row, she promised. The guests began arriving at 6. I watched from the balcony as Nora played hostess, as Rebecca circled Davis like a glamorous shark, as my father chatted with distant relatives who hadn't bothered to keep in touch after he left. Everything's ready, Wilson said behind me. Cameras are in position, audio's perfect. The moment you give the signal. Good, I said, touching the USB drive in my clutch. Is Christian here? Front table already recording everything on his phone like you asked. Christian, Davis's socially awkward friend with a massive social media following, had no idea he'd been cast as our backup documenter. He recorded everything, always trying to go viral. Tonight, he'd get his wish. Emma appeared with a glass of champagne. Last chance to back out. I watched Nora guide Rebecca to the family table, my table, while Davis pretended not to notice. Watch my father accept a drink from the woman who'd weaponized his absence. Watch the perfect scene they'd all arranged, thinking they were the directors of this play. No, I said, straightening my spine, I'm done backing out. The ballroom lights dimmed right on schedule. Nora took the microphone, ready to begin her carefully scripted evening. She had no idea she was about to become a supporting character in my story instead. I touched my engagement ring, thinking about how it would look catching the light as it fell into Davis's champagne. Thought about Rebecca's smug smile dissolving when the screen lit up. About Nora's carefully constructed world crumbling in front of her society friends. About my father watching the daughter he'd abandoned take control of her own narrative. Places, everyone, I whispered to myself as Nora began to speak. The show is about to begin. Love, Nora's voice rang through the ballroom, is about coming home, about returning to where you truly belong. I stood at the back of the room, watching her command the crowd like a conductor. Davis sat at the main table, Rebecca beside him, their knees touching under the white tablecloth. And speaking of coming home, Nora continued, her smile sharp as glass, I'd like to toast someone who's brought so much joy to our family, someone who's always been more than just a friend. The crowd shifted uncomfortably as Nora turned toward Rebecca. Even Christian lowered his phone slightly, sensing the awkwardness. Rebecca, darling, Nora raised her glass, you've been patient, you've been understanding, and you've never stopped being part of this family. Davis coughed, tugging at his collar. My father, seated at a nearby table, frowned in confusion. Some might say it's unusual to have an ex at an engagement party, Nora laughed airily. But then, some relationships transcend conventional labels, don't they? Emma, stationed by the AV booth, caught my eye. Ready, she mouthed. I nodded slightly. And now, Nora gestured toward me with theatrical grace, I believe our bride-to-be has prepared a special tribute of her own. Yes, I said, moving toward the microphone. I have. The room turned to face me. Davis smiled encouragingly, probably expecting some sappy declaration of love. Rebecca smirked into her champagne glass. Before I begin, I said softly, I'd like to thank everyone who made this evening possible, especially you, Nora, for teaching me that family isn't just about blood. It's about choices. Nora beamed, missing the edge in my voice. And Rebecca, I continued, for showing me that some things really do transcend conventional labels, like loyalty, truth, fidelity. Davis's smile faltered. But most of all, I turned to my father. I'd like to thank the man who taught me my first lesson about love and trust. Dad, when you left us 17 years ago, I learned that sometimes people aren't who they pretend to be. The room went silent. My father's face drained of colour. Which brings me to my tribute, I smiled, signalling Wilson, a little presentation about love, trust and coming home. The screen flickered to life. Davis's confession filled the room. I've made a terrible mistake. With Rebecca. It started again 3 months ago. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Rebecca knocked over her champagne glass. Nora lunged for the microphone, but Emma had already locked down the audio controls. Hotel security footage played next. Davis and Rebecca entering, leaving, his hand always on the small of her back. Then Nora's text to Rebecca appeared. "She's just a placeholder fiancé." This is doctored," Nora sputtered, but her voice shook. The final clip, Rebecca in the garden just yesterday. "He's finally coming home." Christian's phone was streaming it all, his followers multiplying by the second. "Stop this immediately," Nora commanded, but no one moved to help her. I picked up my champagne glass. "You're right, Nora. Love is about coming home, but my home isn't with liars and cheats." Davis stood up, knocking his chair backward. "Sergei, please." "Oh, I almost forgot your engagement gift," I said, slipping off my ring. It made a satisfying plink as it fell into his champagne. Rebecca burst into tears, perfectly timed, perfectly fake. "This is all a misunderstanding." "It?" I turned to the crowd. "Because I have 17 more minutes of evidence if anyone's unclear." My father stood up. "Sergei, honey, don't," I cut him off. "You don't get to play concerned father now. You lost that role when you walked away." "That's enough," Nora's voice cracked like a whip. "You're making a scene." "No, Nora," I said calmly. "I'm just showing everyone exactly who you are, who you all are." The room erupted in whispers. Phone cameras flashed. Christian's live stream count hit 10,000. "Davis!" Rebecca wailed. "Tell them it's not true!" But Davis just stood there, champagne dripping from his fingers, my ring glinting at the bottom of his glass. I turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Rebecca, crimson red really isn't your colour." Emma fell into step beside me as I walked out, her arm linking through mine. Behind us, chaos erupted, Nora's carefully orchestrated evening dissolving into scandal and shock. "Wait," Davis called after me. "Where are you going?" I didn't turn around. Let him watch me walk away, just like my father had all those years ago. Let them all watch. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth, it's walking away and letting that truth do all the work for you. The chaos behind us swelled like a wave as Emma and I reached the lobby. Phones were chiming everywhere. Christian's livestream had gone viral in real time. "Wait!" Davis's voice echoed through the marble hallway. "You can't just leave like this." I kept walking, but he caught up, grabbing my arm. "Let me explain." "Don't touch her!" Wilson appeared suddenly, his voice low and dangerous. He must have followed us out. Davis released me, running his hands through his hair frantically. "This isn't! You don't understand!" "I understand perfectly," I said, turning to face him. "I understand that you're weak, that you let your mother run your life, that you never really stopped seeing Rebecca." "That's not fair!" Nora's voice cut through the lobby as she rushed toward us, Rebecca trailing behind like a crimson shadow. "You vindictive little—" "Careful, Nora." Emma held up her phone. "Still streaming." Hotel guests were gathering now, drawn by the drama. Phones recorded everything. Christian pushed through the crowd, narrating for his followers. "And now the confrontation is spilling into the lobby." "You planned this," Rebecca accused, mascara running down her cheeks. "You set us up." I laughed, actually laughed. "Set you up? You did this to yourselves. I just provided the spotlight." "You've ruined everything," Nora hissed. "Years of social connections, Davis's reputation." "Your careful manipulations," I finished for her. "Good." My father appeared at the edge of the crowd. "Sergei, please, let's all calm down and talk about this like adults." "Like adults?" I turned to him. "Where was that attitude when you were sneaking out at midnight 17 years ago?" The crowd murmured. More phones appeared. "That's different," he protested weakly. "No," I said, It's exactly the same, people showing their true colours, running away when things get hard, making choices that hurt others. Davis stepped forward again. I love you, Sage. We can fix this. No, Davis, you love being comfortable. You love avoiding conflict. You love letting your mother make your choices. I gestured to Rebecca. So go ahead. Choose comfort. Choose her. Just don't pretend it's about love. Rebecca's face contorted. You think you're so perfect? So righteous? At least I fight for what I want. Fight? I raised an eyebrow. Is that what you call sneaking around hotels? Letting his mother orchestrate your affair? Enough, Davis shouted, his composure finally cracking. This isn't who we are. We're better than this public spectacle. No, I said quietly. This is exactly who you are. You're just not used to people seeing it. Nora stepped forward, her society mask slipping completely. You ungrateful little witch, after everything we've done for you. Everything you've done to me, I corrected. And now everyone knows. How does it feel, Nora, to lose control of the narrative? The crowd had grown larger. Hotel security hovered uncertainly at the edges. Christian's commentary continued. The live stream count just hit 50,000. Davis, Rebecca whimpered, clutching his arm. Do something! But Davis just stood there, looking lost. The perfect son, the charming fiancé, the successful businessman, all his carefully maintained images crumbling under the weight of truth. I'll tell you what Davis is going to do, I said, my voice carrying across the now silent lobby. He's going to do exactly what he always does. Nothing. He's going to let his mother clean up this mess, let Rebecca comfort him, and tell himself he had no choice. That's not true, he whispered, but his eyes said otherwise. My father tried one last time. Sweetheart, you're hurt, I understand, but public humiliation? Save it, I cut him off. You lost the right to give me advice about hurt feelings when you started your new family. Emma touched my arm gently. Car's ready. I nodded, then turned to face them all one last time. Davis, Rebecca, Nora, my father. The people who thought they could write my story for me. Goodbye, I said simply. I hope the view's nice from the wreckage of your perfect little world. As Emma and I walked out into the night, Wilson following close behind, I heard Nora's shrill voice. This isn't over. But it was. The truth was out there now, multiplying across social media, impossible to contain. Their carefully constructed facade had shattered in front of hundreds of witnesses and thousands of viewers. And me? I felt lighter with each step, like I was walking out of a dark theatre into bright sunlight. You okay? Emma asked as we reached her car. I looked back at the hotel one last time, at the chaos still spilling through its doors, at the life I was leaving behind. Yes, I said, and smiled. I'm finally free. The morning sun warmed my face as I sat on the beach, watching waves crash against the shore. Emma dropped onto the sand beside me, handing over a coffee and her phone. You might want to see this, she said. Rebecca's Instagram post filled the screen, a soft focus photo of her looking wistfully into the distance. The caption read, Sometimes love means letting go, but true souls always find their way back. Healing, Heim, still believe in love. The comments are brutal, Emma grinned. Apparently, being exposed as a homewrecker isn't great for her influencer brand. My phone buzzed. Wilson. Davis just got passed over for the Miller account. Clients saw the video. Nobody wants to work with him. Karma doesn't need a timeline, I murmured, remembering my mother's words. Speaking of Mum, her latest letter lay unopened in my lap. I'd been receiving them daily since the party, not because we weren't talking, but because she said some things needed to be written down. I opened today's envelope. Dearest Sai, Nora called again. She's still trying to spin the story, but nobody's buying it. Your father also reached out. Don't worry, I hung up. Some bridges stay burned for a reason. Remember what I told you about Karma? She doesn't always check the calendar, but she never forgets an appointment. Love, Mum. Your mum's got away with words, Emma said, reading over my shoulder. She does. I folded the letter carefully. Did you see Christian's latest update? Emma pulled up the video. Nora, at some charity function, desperately trying to maintain her usual control. But people were turning away, conversations stopping when she approached. The camera caught her sitting alone at a table meant for 10. I heard she's been dropped from 3 charity boards, Emma said. Apparently, helping your son cheat on his fiancée isn't very philanthropic. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. Davis. Don't answer it, Emma warned. I put it on speaker instead. Sage, Davis's voice cracked. Please, everything's falling apart. Mum's a mess. Rebecca's threatening to write a tell-all. The firm is freezing me out. Sounds like consequences, I said. I need you, he pleaded. You were always the strong one, the one who knew what to do. No, Davis, I was just the one willing to face reality. You're on your own now. I hung up, blocking his number with a finality that felt like freedom. You know what's funny? I said to Emma. I thought revenge would feel hot, angry, but it just feels clean. Speaking of clean, Emma wiggled her eyebrows, Wilson's been asking about you. Wilson's been asking about work, I corrected. The Anderson event needs a new coordinator since I quit. Please, Emma scoffed. He's been asking about work every day since the party. That's not about spreadsheets. Before I could respond, another text came through, from my father. I know I have no right to reach out, but I'm proud of you. You did what I never could, stood up for yourself. If you ever want to talk. I deleted it without responding. Some chapters needed to stay closed. A notification popped up. Rebecca had tagged me in a post. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was the engagement party video, but not the revenge part. Just a quiet moment before everything exploded when I was standing alone in the ballroom. The caption read, "You think you won, but look at your eyes, so cold, so calculated. Was it worth losing your humanity for revenge?" I started laughing. Emma looked concerned until I showed her. She really doesn't get it, does she? I said. This was never about winning, it was about truth. And karma, Emma added. And karma, I agreed, standing up and brushing sand from my legs. Ready for breakfast? Actually, Emma hesitated, Wilson's meeting us. He said something about a new job offer, senior event coordinator position, different city. I thought about Davis's pleading voice, about Rebecca's attempted manipulation, about Nora's crumbling social empire, about how revenge hadn't felt like fire, but like rain washing everything clean. You know what? I said. Breakfast sounds perfect, because sometimes the best ending isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. Free to choose your own path, write your own story, start your own chapter. And if that chapter happened to include breakfast with a certain handsome event coordinator, well, karma works in mysterious ways. I took one last look at the ocean, at the endless horizon stretching before me, and smiled. The future was wide open, and this time I was the only one holding the pen.
I should have known something was wrong when my mother-in-law insisted on hosting the welcome party for my daughter. But there I stood, 3 weeks postpartum, watching Yolanda arrange finger sandwiches while cooing over my baby Ella like she owned her. I'm Lindsay, and this is how my husband and his mother tried to destroy me, and how I made them regret it. Oh, darling, you look... well, you're trying your best, Yolanda said, adjusting my dress strap like I was a child. Perhaps some more concealer under those eyes. I forced a smile, clutching Ella closer to my chest. The living room was filling with guests, mostly Casey's colleagues and family friends. My sister Vivian couldn't make it, stuck in court.
Now I wonder if Yolanda planned it that way. "Where's Casey?" I asked, scanning the room for my husband. "Oh, finishing up some work calls. You know how important his position is." Yolanda's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Unlike maternity leave, which is basically a vacation." Before I could respond, my former best friend Marley swooped in. "Lindsay, you're actually up and dressed." She exchanged knowing looks with Yolanda. "We were all so worried when you wouldn't answer calls last week." "I was recovering from a C-section," I said flatly. "Doctor's orders." Of course, Marley patted my arm, though my cousin bounced right back. Casey finally emerged from his home office, perfectly groomed in his casual blazer. He kissed my cheek, cold, mechanical, and immediately reached for Ella. "Let me take her, honey. You look tired." The room hushed as Yolanda clinked her glass. My stomach dropped as I watched her command everyone's attention. This wasn't a spontaneous toast. "Friends, family, thank you for coming to welcome our precious Ella." Yolanda's voice carried that false warmth I'd grown to hate. "As you know, becoming a mother is challenging. Some women adapt naturally, while others—" She paused, eyes finding mine. "Others need more support." The silence grew heavy. Casey stood beside his mother, still holding our daughter, not looking at me. "Which is why Casey and I have made arrangements." Yolanda gestured to manila envelopes being distributed by the catering staff. "We've prepared a care plan. I'll be moving in temporarily to assume primary caretaking duties while Lindsay focuses on her recovery." The room exploded in whispers. I stood frozen, watching guests pull out glossy documents detailing my supposed instability. 3 weeks of concerning behaviour, documentation of maternal reluctance, even quotes from my private therapy sessions, the ones Casey had insisted I attend with his mother's recommended doctor. "It's for the best, honey," Casey finally spoke, bouncing our daughter. "Mum knows what she's doing." I felt the room spinning, but not from shock, from rage, pure, crystallizing rage. "Lindsay?" Marley touched my arm. "Maybe you should sit." I smiled, calm, collected. "Actually, I think I'll take Ella for her feeding." Oh, I can do that." Yolanda stepped forward. "We have bottles ready." "No," my voice cut through the room. "My daughter, my breast milk, my decision." I took Ella from Casey's arms, his face flickering with uncertainty at my steadiness. As I walked upstairs, I heard Yolanda smoothly steering the conversation toward refreshments. In the nursery, I held Ella close, breathing in her perfect newborn scent. They thought they'd blindsided me. They thought this carefully orchestrated humiliation would break me. My phone buzzed. A text from Vivian. "Court filing confirmed. Operation Karma starts Monday." I kissed Ella's forehead, a cold smile spreading across my face. While they'd been planning their little intervention, I'd been planning too. Every manipulative text, every financial document, every recorded conversation where Yolanda talked about taking over once the baby arrived, all safely backed up and in my lawyer's hands. They wanted to paint me as unstable? Fine. I'd show them what happens when you back a mother into a corner. "Your grandma and daddy made a big mistake, sweet girl," I whispered to Ella. "They thought Mummy was weak. They forgot I made partner at my firm by age 30. They forgot I specialised in crisis management." Another text from Vivian. "You okay?" I typed back one word. "Ready." The party continued below, Yolanda's laugh carrying up the stairs. Let them celebrate. Let them think they've won. Come Monday, they'd learn what real instability looks like. They wanted a war? I'd give them annihilation. After the last guest left, I sat in the nursery's rocking chair, my laptop balanced on the armrest, while Ella slept in her crib. The house below echoed with the sounds of Casey and Yolanda cleaning up, probably congratulating themselves on their perfect ambush. My fingers flew across the keyboard, sending Vivian the final pieces she needed. 3 years of marriage, and I'd documented everything. "You've got enough to bury them," Vivian said when she called. "The financial records alone." "They'll try to use the postpartum against me," I said quietly, watching Ella's chest rise and fall. "Yolanda's got that therapist in her pocket. That's why we moved first. Judge Matthews already has the emergency custody petition. The financial fraud allegations are just the nuclear option." I heard footsteps on the stairs. "Got to go, coming over tomorrow?" "With bells on. And Lindsay?" "You're not crazy. You're just surrounded by crazy." Casey appeared in the doorway as I ended the call. "Who was that?" "Vivian, checking in." I closed my laptop. "Since she couldn't make it to your mother's little presentation." He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Look, I know it seemed harsh, but we're worried about you. The crying, the paranoia about letting anyone hold Ella. You mean letting your mother hold Ella? While she criticizes my breastfeeding technique. See? This is exactly what I mean. Mum's trying to help, and you're being defensive." I stood up slowly, my C-section scar still tender. "Remember last month? When Yolanda suggested putting her name on Ella's birth certificate as a precaution? She was joking." "Was she joking when she accessed my therapy records? When she told your aunt I might have postpartum psychosis?" Casey ran his hands through his hair, his tell when he's losing control of a situation. "You're twisting things. Mum's moving in tomorrow. We've already decided." "No," I said simply. "She's not." "Lindsay?" "I have breast milk stored in the freezer. I'm taking Ella to Vivian's tonight. You can explain to your mother why her bedroom takeover needs to wait." His face darkened. "You're not taking my daughter anywhere. Our daughter. And yes, I am. Unless you want me calling the police to report how your mother obtained my private medical records. Pretty sure that's a HIPAA violation." The threat landed. Casey stepped back, that familiar mask of calm sliding into place. "Fine. One night? But we're discussing this tomorrow." "Oh, we'll definitely be having discussions tomorrow." I packed quickly. I'd prepared a bag days ago when I first noticed Yolanda bringing over extra clothes. Just in case. Casey watched from the doorway as I strapped Ella into her car seat. "Don't do anything stupid," he warned. I smiled, thinking of the court papers already being processed. "I never do." Vivian's apartment was a 20th floor haven with a spare room already set up for us. She opened the door in her pajamas, legal papers spread across her coffee table. "Holy shit," she said, taking in my face. "You really are you scary calm about this?" "Calm is a weapon," I replied, settling Ella into the portable crib. "What have you found?" She held up a stack of bank statements. "Remember that inheritance from Grandma last year? The one Casey convinced you to invest in his company's new project. The tech startup. What about it?" "It never went to the startup. Yolanda diverted it into a private account. Casey's signature is all over the transfers." I felt my hand shake for the first time that day. "How much? 250,000? That's..." I sat heavily on the couch. "That's theft." "That's why Judge Matthews expedited the hearing." Vivian poured us both wine. "The custody filing was concerning, but the financial fraud? That's criminal." "Casey will claim I authorized it." "Casey can claim whatever he wants. We have the paper trail." She handed me a glass. "The real question is, how far do you want to take this?" I thought about the pamphlets at the party, the whispers, the way Casey held our daughter while his mother announced her plan to take over my role. "All the way," I said, taking a sip. "I want them to regret ever thinking they could take my baby. They'll play dirty. They already have." I pulled out my phone, showing her the texts already coming in from Marley and other friends, all concerned about my erratic behaviour in leaving the house. "Flying monkeys," Vivian muttered, "right on schedule. Let to them come. Every worried text, every call about my mental state, it's all evidence of harassment. Ella stirred in her sleep, making those tiny noises that melted my heart. I touched her tiny hand, her fingers wrapping instinctively around mine. "Tomorrow," I said softly, "we show them what a real intervention looks like." The next morning, I drove to my old office building, Ella securely strapped in her carrier. Otto was waiting in the coffee shop across the street, his familiar grin warming something in my chest I thought had frozen solid. "There's my favourite tiny human," he cooed at Ella before looking up at me. "And her warrior mum. You look like hell? Actually, you look dangerous." He pulled out my chair. I like it. I'd worked with Otto for 5 years before my maternity leave. He'd been the first to notice something was off when Casey started managing my pregnancy. "Remember when he insisted on coming to every doctor's appointment?" Otto asked, stirring his coffee. "Said he was being supportive?" "While texting his mother updates about my concerning questions to the doctor." I adjusted Ella's blanket. I should have seen it then. "You were busy growing a human. Speaking of..." He reached into his messenger bag. "I found those email threads you asked about. The ones where Casey discussed your temporary replacement." My hand stilled. "From when?" "4 months into your pregnancy. Way before any maternity leave discussions." I scanned the printed emails. Casey had been planning with HR to transition my accounts permanently, citing concerns about my work-life balance after the baby. He was setting me up to be a stay-at-home mum under his mother's supervision. "Keep reading," Otto said grimly. There it was. Yolanda's name in Casey's correspondence with his boss, Gareth. Discussions about a family office arrangement, using my inheritance as seed money. That manipulative son of a... "Careful," Otto gestured at Ella. "Little ears." My phone buzzed. Marley, again. I let it go to voicemail. "She's been calling all morning," I explained. "Probably reporting back to Yolanda." "About that?" Otto leaned forward. "You know she's been sleeping with Casey's cousin, right? The one who works at the investment firm handling your inheritance." The pieces clicked. That's how they got the account information. Bingo. Otto's eyes softened. "I'm sorry, Lindsay. I should have told you sooner about Marley." "No, this is perfect." I pulled out my phone, typing quickly. "Watch this." I sent a group text to several gossip-prone colleagues. "Having coffee with Otto. He just told me the most shocking thing about Casey. Can't believe he'd risk everything for someone else while I was pregnant. No wonder his mum's trying to take control." Otto's eyes widened. "You didn't actually accuse him of..." "Nope. Just planted the seed. Let their guilty consciences fill in the blanks." My phone immediately lit up with responses. I silenced it, knowing the rumour mill was already spinning. "You're scary good at this," Otto said admiringly. "I learned from the best. Yolanda's been playing these games for years." I stood up, adjusting Ella's carrier. "Thanks for the emails. They'll help." "Lindsay?" Otto caught my hand. "When this is over, maybe we could..." My phone rang. Vivian. "Sorry, I have to take this." Stepping outside, I answered what she says. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's beautifully right. Check your email." I pulled up my inbox while balancing Ella. There it was, a forwarded message from an anonymous account. What am I looking at? Financial records from Yolanda's personal foundation, the one she uses for her charity work. Vivian's voice dripped satisfaction. Turns out she's been embezzling from it for years, including the money she used to pay off your therapist. My hand shook as I scrolled through the documents. Who sent this? Someone who signed it Karma's accountant. My money's on Casey's boss, Gareth. He's been trying to get Yolanda's influence out of the company for years. I watched Otto through the coffee shop window, talking softly to a coworker. He caught my eye and smiled. That same supportive smile he'd given me when I first suspected something was wrong in my marriage. "Vivian, I need you to move up the timeline. How fast can we file everything?" "The papers are ready. Just say when." I looked down at Ella, peaceful in her carrier, unaware of the storm about to break. "Tomorrow, during Casey's big presentation to the board." "That's ruthless." Vivian paused. "I love it." My phone buzzed with another text. Casey this time. "Mum's upset. You're not answering her calls. Come home. We can work this out." I typed back. "You're right. Let's talk tomorrow. After your presentation." Looking up, I caught Otto watching me again. He raised his coffee cup in a mock toast, and I felt a flutter that had nothing to do with revenge. Tomorrow, I'd burn Casey's world down. But today, for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. The next morning, I dressed carefully in my old power suit, the one I wore to close my biggest deals. Ella matched in a pristine white onesie, the picture of a well-cared-for baby. Appearances matter when you're about to destroy someone's life. "Ready for our little visit?" I cooed to Ella, checking my hidden voice recorder. Yolanda opened her front door with obvious surprise. "Lindsay, I've been trying to reach you." "I know, I came to apologise." The lie tasted sweet. "May I come in?" Her house was a shrine to control. Everything perfectly placed, photos of Casey everywhere, but none of me. She led us to her immaculate living room, practically vibrating with satisfaction. "I'm so relieved you're being sensible," she said, reaching for Ella. "Casey was worried you might do something rash." I held Ella closer. "Actually, I wanted to understand something first. The foundation money. How long have you been using it to manipulate Casey's life?" The colour drained from her face. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The therapist you paid to diagnose me with postpartum depression? The one who conveniently shared all my sessions with you?" I pulled out my phone, playing a recording. "She confessed everything this morning. Something about not wanting to lose her licence." Yolanda's mask cracked. "You ungrateful little—" "Careful," I warned, still recording. "Remember who's holding the baby. That baby should have been mine to raise." She caught herself, lowering her voice. "Casey was perfect before you. Perfect. Then you got pregnant, and suddenly he's questioning everything. The company investments, my involvement in his life. His life, not mine, not Ella's. You have no idea what it takes to build a legacy." Yolanda stepped closer. "That inheritance of yours, it's protecting Casey's future. Your postpartum confusion would have wasted it on some daycare business." Got her. The recording caught every word. My phone buzzed. "Vivian. Court orders signed. Green light." "Thank you, Yolanda," I said calmly. "That's exactly what I needed to hear." "What?" "A confession about the inheritance, the fraud. All of it." She lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. "You recorded me? You can't. That's illegal." "Single-party consent state." I smiled. I consented." The doorbell rang. Yolanda froze as a man's voice called out, "Legal courier service." "That would be your cease and desist order," I explained, bouncing Ella gently. "The fraud investigation notice should arrive this afternoon." "You wouldn't dare. Casey would never let you." "Casey's about to have his own problems." I checked my watch. "In about 30 minutes, actually." Yolanda grabbed her phone, hand shaking. No signal. "What did you do?" "Me? Nothing. But cell towers do mysteriously go down sometimes. Usually back up in an hour or so. Just long enough for certain presentations to go uninterrupted." The courier knocked again. Yolanda's face contorted with rage. Get out of my house. Gladly, but first, I placed a final envelope on her perfect coffee table. Divorce papers. I had them drawn up weeks ago when I first found the transfer records. You should be proud. I learned manipulation from the best. I'll destroy you, she hissed. No, I said softly. You already tried that. At my daughter's welcome party. Remember? Ella began to fuss. Perfect timing. I headed for the door, pausing in the doorway. Oh, and Yolanda. The foundation board meets this afternoon. Funny how many anonymous tips they've received about financial irregularities. The courier was still waiting. I nodded to him as I left, Yolanda's scream of frustration following me down the walkway. My phone buzzed back to life as I drove away, right on schedule. 3 missed calls from Casey. A text from Vivienne. Court recorder, ready for the presentation? On her way, I replied. Another message popped up. Otto. Just saw Casey. He's reviewing his slides, totally clueless. You sure about this? I thought about the pamphlets at the party, the whispers, the planned destruction of my motherhood. Absolutely sure, I texted back. Ella cooed from her car seat as I parked near Casey's office building. In 20 minutes, his carefully constructed world would shatter. The court recorder would capture every moment. Gareth would witness his star employee's fall. My phone lit up with a final text from Casey. Running late? Save me a seat? Don't worry, I wrote back. I wouldn't miss this for the world. I checked my makeup in the rearview mirror, adjusted Ella's bow, and grabbed the final envelope from my briefcase. Time to show them what a real intervention looks like. The boardroom buzzed with pre-presentation energy. Casey stood at the front, arranging his slides, every hair perfectly in place. He faltered slightly when I walked in with Ella, but recovered quickly. Honey, I didn't expect... He moved to kiss my cheek. I stepped aside. Don't let me interrupt. I'm just here to watch. Gareth entered, his eyebrows rising at my presence. I gave him a slight nod, our signal that everything was in place. He'd been surprisingly eager to help once I'd shown him the evidence of Yolanda's financial manipulations within the company. Quite a turnout, Gareth commented, taking his seat. Even brought a court reporter to document your big proposal, Casey. Casey beamed, missing the edge in his boss's voice. Well, it is a landmark deal. The door opened again. A sheriff's deputy entered, document folder in hand. Mr. Casey Harrison? Casey's smile flickered. Can this wait? I'm about to begin a presentation. No, sir, it cannot. The deputy stepped forward. You've been served. The room fell silent as Casey took the papers with trembling hands. I watched his face as he read. Confusion, shock, rage. His eyes snapped to mine. What is this? Emergency custody hearing, I said calmly, plus some interesting financial fraud allegations. You might want to read the part about your mother's foundation. You can't... He looked around the room, realizing his audience. This is my presentation. Oh, don't stop on my account. I settled into a chair, adjusting Ella's blanket. I'm sure the board would love to hear about the tech startup, the one you diverted my inheritance into? Or was that money actually funding your mother's private accounts? Gareth stood up. Casey, is there something you need to tell us about the investment structure? This is ridiculous. Casey's composure cracked. She's unstable. Postpartum depression. My mother has documentation. From the therapist she paid off? I pulled out my phone, playing Yolanda's confession from earlier. The colour drained from Casey's face as his mother's voice filled the room. That inheritance of yours, it's protecting Casey's future. Turn that off, he whispered. Why? Isn't this what you wanted? Everything out in the open? The board members shifted uncomfortably. One pulled out his phone, no doubt checking the company's legal exposure. Casey, Gareth's voice was steel. Is this true about the diverted investments? I can explain, To the SEC, I cut in. They're very interested in where that money went. Casey lunged for my phone, but the deputy stepped between us. Ella started crying, right on cue. Don't worry, I said, standing up. We're leaving. I just wanted you to experience what public humiliation feels like. Remember my daughter's welcome party? Our daughter, he snarled. Check the custody papers again. As of this morning, that's debatable. Gareth cleared his throat. I think we need to suspend this presentation. Casey, my office, now. I headed for the door, pausing to address the room. I apologise for the disruption. I just believe in transparency, especially when it comes to financial fraud and attempted parental alienation. The boardroom erupted in whispers as I left. Through the glass walls, I watched Casey follow Gareth, his perfect posture crumbling. My phone buzzed. Vivienne. Yolanda got her papers. She's trying to access the foundation accounts. Too late, I texted back. Gareth froze everything this morning. Another message popped up from Marley. How could you do this to him? I typed, ask your boyfriend, Casey's cousin, the one who helped steal my inheritance. Silence. In the lobby, Otto waited with a coffee. Need a getaway driver? Actually. I looked down at Ella, now peaceful again. Want to grab lunch? I have a feeling Casey will be busy with lawyers for a while. You're terrifyingly calm about all this. I learned from Yolanda, appearance is everything. I let my hand shake finally. But I could use a friend right now. Otto touched my arm gently. You've got one. And, hey, you just took down an entire conspiracy in under an hour, while holding a baby. The day's not over, I said, checking my phone. Vivian's filing the criminal charges this afternoon. Remind me never to cross you. Through the glass doors, I watched Casey emerge from Gareth's office, security escort in tow. He saw me watching and mouthed something that looked like, please. I turned away. Let's get that lunch. I have a feeling my appetite's about to come back. Otto held the door, and for the first time in months, I walked out into the sunlight without looking over my shoulder. The voicemail started at midnight. I sat in Vivian's guest room listening to Casey unravel in real time. Baby, please. We can fix this. Delete. You're making a huge mistake. Delete. My mother is having a breakdown. Delete. If you don't call me back, I swear to God. Delete. Ella stirred in her crib as my phone lit up again. Marley this time. I answered on speaker, letting Vivian record from her laptop. How dare you? Marley hissed. Do you know what you've done? Exposed your role in stealing my inheritance. Yes, I do. I never... That's not... She faltered. James was just helping Casey protect you from yourself. James, Casey's cousin, the investment manager who conveniently started dating my best friend right when I got pregnant. Silence. Tell me, Marley, how much did they pay you to spy on me? It wasn't like that. We were worried about you. The way you kept questioning Casey's decisions, fighting Yolanda's help. You mean the way I noticed my money disappearing? A knock at the door made me jump. Vivian checked the security camera and mouthed, Yolanda. Got to go, I told Marley. Enjoy the SEC investigation. Yolanda's voice carried through the door. Lindsay, open up, right now. Should I call the police? Vivian whispered. I shook my head, pressing record on my phone. Let her dig her grave deeper. Opening the door revealed a dishevelled Yolanda, mascara smeared, designer outfit wrinkled. You vindictive little witch. Good evening to you too. You're violating the restraining order. The foundation board suspended me. She tried to push past me, but Vivian blocked her. 20 years of reputation destroyed. Karma's interesting that way. I'll tell everyone about your episodes, she threatened, How you wouldn't let anyone help with Ella. How you isolated Casey. You mean like this? I played back her confession from earlier. The boar already has a copy. So does your pastor, by the way. The one you bragged to about saving my baby? Yolanda's face crumpled. He was perfect before you. My perfect boy. And now he's facing fraud charges. Funny how actions have consequences. My phone buzzed. Otto. Just saw Casey leaving the office. Box of personal items. Security escort. Speaking of consequences, I showed Yolanda the message. Looks like Casey's perfect career is over too. She lunged at me, but Vivian was faster. In seconds, Yolanda was face down, my sister's law school self-defense classes proving useful. That's assault, Vivian said calmly, dialing 911. On camera, with witnesses. You've ruined everything, Yolanda screamed as police sirens approached. No, I said, checking on a now crying Ella. You did that when you tried to steal my daughter. The police were professional, efficient. As they led Yolanda away, one officer paused. Ma'am, your husband's been trying to reach you. Ex-husband, I corrected. And yes, I know. After they left, Vivian poured wine. You okay? No. I let out a shaky breath. But I will be. My phone lit up with messages, flying monkeys emerging to defend Casey and Yolanda, each text more desperate than the last. They're scared, Vivian observed. The whole house of cards is falling. A new message appeared from Gareth. Board meeting tomorrow. Bringing forensic accountants. Need your documentation. Already sent, I replied. Another text from an unknown number. This is James. Marley told me everything. I'll testify. Rats fleeing the ship, Vivian said. Otto called next. Hey, you need anything? I can bring dinner. Actually, I looked at Vivian, who nodded encouragingly. That would be nice. After hanging up, I checked the security camera feed from my house, the one Casey didn't know about. He was there, sitting in his car, staring at the dark windows. Should we warn him about the new locks? Vivian asked. Let him figure it out. I watched him on the screen. He needs to understand what it feels like to be locked out of your own life. Ella made those tiny baby noises that melted my heart. I picked her up, breathing in her perfect scent. Your daddy and grandma thought they could take you away, I whispered. They forgot that mothers are built for war. My phone buzzed one last time. Casey. Please, I'm outside our house. Just talk to me. I typed back. No, but you can talk to my lawyers tomorrow. Bring your mother and your accountant. Then I turned off my phone, held my daughter, and waited for Otto to arrive with dinner. Tomorrow would bring more battles, but tonight I'd won the war. The courthouse hallway buzzed with tension. Casey sat with his lawyer, his perfect appearance finally cracking. Wrinkled shirt, dark circles under his eyes. Yolanda perched beside him, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. They both flinched when I walked in with Ella. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Matthews studied the room, her eyes sharp. Quite a mess we have here. Custody dispute tangled with financial fraud. Let's start with the money. Casey's lawyer stood. Your Honour, my client was acting in his wife's best interest. By stealing her inheritance, Vivian interrupted, spreading documents across the table. We have proof of systematic fraud, including Mrs. Harrison's recorded confession. Objection. That recording was obtained under single-party consent law, Judge Matthews finished. I've reviewed it, along with the Foundation's records. She turned to Casey. Care to explain why your mother's charity was paying for your wife's therapist? Casey stood, straightening his tie. Your Honour, we were concerned about Lindsay's mental state. So concerned you documented everything? I spoke up, bouncing Ella gently. Every episode carefully noted, right after you moved my money. Order, Judge Matthews warned, but I caught her slight nod. Yolanda burst forward. She's manipulating everyone. She planned this. Mrs. Harrison, sit down, the judge snapped. Your foundation's legal issues will be handled separately. The courtroom doors opened. Gareth entered with 2 men in suits. Your Honour, Vivian said. Mr. Townsend from the company board, with SEC investigators. Casey's face went ash white. Perfect timing, Judge Matthews said. Mr. Harrison, about those startup investments. I can explain everything, Casey stammered. Please do. Starting with this document showing you diverted funds 2 months before your daughter's birth. Ella chose that moment to coo loudly. Every head turned toward us. Speaking of your daughter, the judge continued, let's address custody. Mrs. Harrison, you have documentation of attempts to alienate you from your child. I handed over the party pamphlets. They distributed these at my daughter's welcome party, 3 weeks after my C-section. A welcome party where you announced taking over parental rights? Judge Matthews asked Yolanda. Without any legal standing? She wasn't bonding properly, Yolanda protested. I had to step in. By paying a therapist to diagnose me. I pulled out more papers. The same therapist who just surrendered her license rather than face investigation. The judge reviewed everything silently. Casey kept trying to catch my eye, but I focused on Ella's perfect face. I've seen enough, Judge Matthews finally said. Mr. Harrison, your financial dealings will be investigated by the SEC. Mrs. Harrison Sr., you're facing separate charges for your role. As for custody. The room held its breath. Full temporary custody to the mother, pending final divorce proceedings. Mr. Harrison, supervised visitation only, after completing parenting classes and psychological evaluation. No, Yolanda shrieked. You can't. One more word, the judge warned, and I'll add contempt of court. Mrs. Harrison Sr., you are barred from any contact with the child. Casey slumped in his chair. Lindsay, please. Save it, I said quietly. Save it for your fraud trial. Outside the courtroom, Gareth approached. The board voted. Casey's terminated, effective immediately. We'll cooperate fully with the investigation. Thank you, I said, for everything. I should have seen it sooner. Yolanda's influence was toxic from the start. Otto waited by the elevator, holding coffee and a diaper bag. Need an escape route? Before I could answer, Marley appeared. Lindsay, wait, you have to understand. I understand perfectly. I turned to face her. You chose the wrong side. How's James handling the SEC investigation? She fled in tears. That was cold, Otto observed. So was betraying your best friend. Casey emerged from the courtroom, eyes red. Can I hold her once? No. I stepped into the elevator. Call my lawyer to schedule supervised visits after your psych eval. I did it for us, he called as the doors closed. For our family. Otto touched my shoulder gently. You okay? I looked down at Ella, peaceful in her carrier. I will be. We both will be. My phone buzzed. Vivienne. Judge just issued the restraining order against Yolanda. It's done. Not quite done, I thought, but close. Want to grab lunch? Otto asked. You should eat something after. After destroying my husband's life? I managed a small smile. Yes, lunch sounds perfect. As we left the courthouse, I heard Yolanda's voice rising in another courtroom, something about foundation funds. But I didn't turn back. Some fires you light, then walk away and let them burn. The last box from Casey's study hit the donation pile with a satisfying thud. Otto held up a framed photo of Casey and Yolanda at some charity gala. Keep or burn? He asked. Donate. Let someone else's fake family hang it up. Ella crawled across her playmat, babbling happily. She'd started pulling herself up on furniture, each milestone documented without Casey's hovering commentary or Yolanda's criticism. My phone buzzed. Vivian. SEC just announced charges. Turn on the news. I flicked on the TV. There was Casey being led out of his lawyer's office in handcuffs. The headline scrolled, "Executive charged in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme." They found more than just my inheritance, I told Otto. Turns out Yolanda's foundation was just the tip of the iceberg. How's she handling prison? According to her lawyer's latest appeal, not well. Apparently, designer jumpsuits aren't a thing. Otto gathered more papers from Casey's desk. Hey, what's this? It was a birthday card I'd given Casey last year. Inside, I'd written about my hopes for our future family. About trust and love and partnership. Burn that one, I said quietly. The doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw Marley shifting nervously on the porch. Want me to send her away? Otto offered. No, it's time. Marley looked smaller somehow, her designer clothes replaced with simple jeans. I brought this. She held out a USB drive. All the emails between James and Casey, about the money, about you, everything. The SEC already has them. I know, She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, I got caught up in their world. The status, the connections. James dumped me the day after the arrests. Karma's funny that way. Can you ever forgive me? I thought about trust, about friendship, about betrayal. No, but I can thank you. Thank me? If you hadn't helped them, I might have taken years to see who they really were. Now, Ella will grow up without their poison. Marley nodded slowly. You were always stronger than they thought. Goodbye, Marley. Inside, Otto was entertaining Ella with silly faces. Everything okay? Getting there. I picked up my daughter, breathing in her baby shampoo scent. Did you mean what you said? About staying? Through fraud investigations, family drama, and midnight feedings? He smiled. Try getting rid of me. My phone lit up. Casey's number. His weekly attempt at contact. Right on schedule. This time, I answered. Lindsay, please. The prosecutor offered a deal. If you speak on my behalf. No. Mum's losing everything. The foundation, her reputation. Actions have consequences, Casey. You taught me that. I love you, he tried. I love Ella. You loved control, power, your mother's approval. Don't call again. I hung up, hands steady. Otto waited, patient as always. You know what's funny? I said, watching Ella play. They thought making me look unstable would break me. Instead, it made me document everything, build evidence, prepare. Like a self-fulfilling prophecy in reverse. Exactly. I deleted Casey's number finally. They created their own destruction. The afternoon sun streamed through windows, no longer shadowed by Yolanda's surprise visits or Casey's monitoring. Ella laughed at something only babies understand. Want to get out of here? Otto asked. The park's having that food truck festival. Actually, I looked around at the half-packed house. Let's sell this place, start fresh. You sure? This was their house, their vision, time for our own. Our? I smiled, really smiled, for the first time in what felt like forever. If you want, he answered by kissing me softly, careful not to squish Ella between us. My phone buzzed one last time. Vivienne. Yolanda's appeal denied. Casey took the plea deal. It's over. But it wasn't over. It was beginning. A life without manipulation, without walking on eggshells, without perfect appearances, hiding ugly truths. Food trucks? I asked Otto. Food trucks, he agreed, already gathering Ella's diaper bag. Outside, the summer air felt clean, new. Ella waved at passing dogs. Otto held my hand. And somewhere in a prison visiting room, a mother and son faced the consequences of their actions. They tried to write my story. The unstable new mother, the the needed intervention, the justified takeover. Instead, I'd written their ending. And now, finally, I was free to write my own.
I still remember the exact moment my marriage died. It wasn't when I caught him cheating or during some explosive fight. It was on a random Tuesday evening when my husband came home late, reeking of whiskey, and told me our dream home, the one we'd spent years planning, wasn't actually ours at all. My name is Vera, and this is how I learned that the two people I trusted most had been plotting behind my back for months. That morning had started like any other. I was in our temporary rental, sorting through paint swatches for the new house, while my morning coffee grew cold. The house was nearly complete, our perfect 3-bedroom colonial, with the wraparound porch we'd first sketched on a diner napkin 3 years ago. "Earth to Vera!" Adrian had laughed that night at the diner, tapping my hand with his pen. "You're doing that dreamy thing again." "I can't help it," I'd replied, drawing little flowers along the porch railing in my sketch. "Just imagine drinking coffee out there every morning. Using your grandmother's inheritance for this place. It's perfect," he'd said, squeezing my hand. "She'd be so proud." Now, standing in our rental's kitchen, my phone buzzed with a text from Adrian's mother, Francesca. "Darling, I'm stopping by the house today to check on the contractors. Any requests?" I frowned. She'd been doing that a lot lately, showing up unannounced, making decisions about our home. When I mentioned it to Adrian, he'd dismiss it with, "Mom's just excited to help, babe. Don't be so sensitive." I called Adrian at work. "Your mother's going to the house again." "Oh?" His voice sounded strained. That's good. She knows about construction stuff." "Adrian, it's our house. We should be the ones." "Listen, I've got a meeting. We'll talk tonight, okay?" He hung up before I could respond. That evening I waited and waited. 9 o'clock came and went. Finally, at 10:30, I heard his key in the lock. He stumbled slightly entering the kitchen. "Where were you?" I asked, arms crossed. "Had drinks with Warren." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Listen, we need to talk." My stomach dropped. "About?" "The house." He gripped the counter, still not looking at me. "There's something I need to tell you." "Adrian, you're scaring me." He took a deep breath. "The deed, it's not in our names. It's in Mom's name." The world tilted sideways. "What?" "It's for protection," he rushed to explain. "Mom suggested it, for tax purposes and family security." "Family security?" My voice sounded far away. "It's our house, Adrian, built with my inheritance money. Mom will add your name later, once everything's settled." "When did you do this?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Last month, when we finalized the paperwork." "Last month?" The room was spinning. "You've been lying to me for a month?" "I wasn't lying. I just waited for the right time to tell you." "While drinking with Warren?" I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. "Does your mother know you're telling me?" His silence was answer enough. "Get out," I whispered. "Vera, please." "Get out!" I screamed, hurling my coffee mug at the wall. It shattered, leaving a dark stain that looked like blood. He fled to the guest room, and I spent the night curled up in our bed, my mind racing. How could he? How dare he? My grandmother's inheritance, nearly everything she'd left me, gone, stolen, and his mother. The next morning I heard a key in the front door. Francesca swept in like she owned the place, which apparently she did. "Good morning, darling," she trilled, dropping a set of keys on the counter. "I assume Adrian told you our little arrangement? It's all for the best, you know. We need to protect family assets." I stared at her perfectly coiffed hair, her expensive blazer, her predatory smile. "Of course," she continued, "you're welcome to stay in the new house, as long as you're respectful of our family's wishes." In that moment, something inside me hardened. I forced myself to smile, even as bile rose in my throat. "Of course, Francesca," I said quietly. "I understand completely." She patted my cheek condescendingly. I knew you would, dear. Now, about those horrible curtains you picked out, I let her prattle on, but I wasn't really listening. I was already planning, because what Adrian and his mother didn't know was that I'd sensed something was wrong weeks ago, and I'd already started gathering evidence. They thought they could steal my dream. Instead, they'd created their worst nightmare. The first person I called was my sister Stella, not to cry, not to break down, but to confirm what I already knew. You were right about them, I said when she picked up. About everything. Oh, honey, she sighed. What did they do? I explained the situation, my voice surprisingly steady. When I finished, the line went quiet for so long, I thought we'd disconnected. I'm going to kill him, Stella finally said. Actually, no. First I'm going to kill that witch of a mother-in-law, then I'm going to kill him. No, I replied. I have a better idea. 2 weeks earlier, I'd noticed Adrian acting strange about the house paperwork. He'd hide documents when I walked into the room, take calls outside, have hushed conversations with his mother. So I'd made an appointment with Chelsea, a forensic accountant recommended by a friend. Now, sitting in Chelsea's office, I watched her flip through the preliminary findings. This is interesting, she said, tapping her pen against a document. Your husband's mother made several large transfers to an offshore account right around the time the house deed was filed. How large? Large enough to raise eyebrows. She looked up. And there's something else. The documentation claiming your inheritance money was a gift from Francesca. The dates don't match up with the actual transfers. I leaned forward. What do you mean? According to this, Francesca gifted the money for the house construction in January, but your inheritance wasn't transferred until March. They backdated the documentation. My hands shook as I took the paper. That's fraud, isn't it? Oh, honey, Chelsea smiled grimly. That's just the beginning. At home, Adrian was playing the concerned husband act perfectly. He'd bring me tea, ask about my day, act like everything was normal, like he hadn't just stolen my future. Maybe we should invite Mom over for dinner, he suggested one evening. Talk about the house situation? I forced a smile. Sure, why not? Francesca arrived the next night wearing an outfit that probably cost more than my car. She breezed past me into the kitchen, already talking about her plans for her house. The contractor agreed to change those awful bathroom tiles, she announced, and I've ordered new curtains. Without asking us? I said quietly. She turned, eyes sharp despite her smile. Darling, I know you're upset about the arrangement, but really, you're being quite dramatic. It's still your home. You just need to understand that certain decisions need to be made by the actual owner. Adrian shifted uncomfortably. Mom, maybe we should... No, I interrupted, maintaining my calm. Francesca's right. She owns the house. She should make the decisions. I paused. Just like she owned that money that built it, right? Something flickered across her face. Exactly. Interesting. I sipped my wine. Because I have documentation showing that money came from my grandmother's inheritance, after the date you claimed to have gifted it. The room went very still. I don't know what you're implying, Francesca said coldly. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Facts that my forensic accountant found very interesting. Adrian's face went pale. You hired an accountant? Weeks ago. I smiled. I also hired a lawyer. Would you like to know what they found in those offshore accounts, Francesca? She stood abruptly, grabbing her purse. I don't have to listen to these accusations. Adrian, we're leaving. Running already? I called after them. But we haven't even discussed the falsified gift documentation yet. The door slammed behind them. I waited until I heard their cars pull away, then pulled out my phone and dialed. Chris, it's Vera. They took the bait. Time to file those papers. My lawyer's voice was satisfied. Everything's ready, but are you sure you want to go this route? It's going to get ugly. I thought about Francesca's smug face, about Adrian's betrayal, about my grandmother's money being used to steal my dream home. Good, I said. I'm counting on it. Later that night, I found a document Adrian had left on his desk, probably in his hurry to flee with his mother. It was a statement clearly showing my inheritance being transferred into the house account. Next to it was a backdated document claiming the money came from Francesca. My hands didn't shake this time as I took photos of both papers. Instead, I felt a cold clarity washing over me. They thought they were so clever, so careful with their schemes and manipulations. They had no idea what was coming. The next few weeks were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Francesca showed up at our rental almost daily, always with that poisonous smile plastered on her face. "Darling, I've decided to host the neighborhood association meeting at the new house next month," she announced one morning, strutting into my kitchen uninvited. I didn't look up from my laptop. "Really? How nice. I thought we could showcase the renovations I'm planning." She emphasized the "I'm" while watching my reaction. "The current design is a bit pedestrian." "Pedestrian?" I kept my voice neutral, even as my fingers tightened on my coffee mug. "The design one from Architectural Digest seems to disagree." Her smile flickered. She hadn't known about that. "Well, dear, that was before. Now we need something more refined." She placed a designer catalog on my counter. "I've marked some suggestions." I heard Adrian's car pull up outside. Perfect timing. "Actually," I said, standing slowly, "I've made some changes of my own." Francesca's eyes narrowed. "What changes?" Adrian walked in, freezing when he saw us both. "I've invited some people to tour the house tomorrow," I continued cheerfully. "The forensic accountant, my lawyer, and, oh yes, someone from the IRS fraud division. They're very interested in those offshore accounts." The color drained from both their faces. "You're bluffing," Francesca snapped. I pulled out my phone, showing them the email confirmation. "Meeting's at 10. You should join us, Francesca. After all, it is your house." Later that evening, I was in the home office when I overheard Adrian on the phone in the next room. "Mom, she's not bluffing." "No, I don't know how much she knows." "Yes, I understand we need to move faster." I crept closer to the door. "The custody thing? Are you sure that's necessary? I know she's been unstable lately, but..." "Yes, I remember the plan." "Fine, I'll call Warren tomorrow about the documentation." My blood ran cold. They were planning to declare me unstable? To take custody of what? We didn't have children unless... My hand flew to my stomach. I'd been planning to tell Adrian about the pregnancy this weekend. Now that news would stay buried until I figured out their game. My phone buzzed. Chelsea, the accountant. "Vera, you need to see this. I found something in Warren's company records. There's a pattern of transfers between his accounts and your mother-in-law's offshore holdings. But here's the kicker. They're labeled as consulting fees for dates before the company even existed. Money laundering? Looks like it. And guess who signed off on all the transfers?" "Adrian," I whispered. "Bingo. Your husband's been helping Mommy Dearest hide money for years. Want to bet some of it came from your inheritance?" I ended the call just as Adrian walked in. "Who was that?" he asked too casually. "Just Stella." I forced a yawn. "I think I'll turn in early." "Vera?" He reached for my hand. "Can't we talk about this? Mom's just trying to protect our future." I pulled away. "Like you're protecting my mental health records?" He flinched. "What?" "I heard you on the phone. Planning to declare me unstable, Adrian? Take custody of something?" "It's not... You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly." I walked to the door, then turned back. "By the way, Warren might want to check his financial records. The IRS tends to frown on backdated consulting fees." His face went from pale to gray. "How did you..." "Sleep well, darling," I said, using Francesca's sickly sweet tone. "Tomorrow's going to be interesting." In bed that night, I placed a hand over my still flat stomach. "Don't worry, little one," I whispered. "Mommy's going to fix this before you arrive. They thought they could take everything from us, but they have no idea who they're dealing with. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. This is Eliana, Adrian's cousin. Stella gave me your number. I heard what they're doing to you. It's not the first time. We need to talk. I sat up, fully awake now. Eliana, the cousin Francesca had banished from family gatherings years ago, the one no one was allowed to mention. When and where? I texted back. The response came immediately. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., Riverside Cafe. I have documents you need to see. And Vera? Be careful. They destroyed my mother. Don't let them destroy you too. I turned off my phone and lay back down, listening to Adrian's guilty tossing and turning in the guest room. Tomorrow would change everything. And I was ready. Eliana looked exactly like the photos Adrian had hidden away. Same dark curls, same sharp green eyes that ran in his family. She was already waiting at Riverside Cafe when I arrived, a thick manila envelope on the table. You look better than I expected, she said as I sat down. When Mom faced off against Francesca, she was a wreck by this point. I'm not your mom, I replied, and I'm not going to let them win. She smiled grimly. No, you're not. That's why I'm here. She pushed the envelope across the table. This is everything they did to my mother. The playbook hasn't changed much. I opened the envelope and started reading. Property theft, gaslighting, manufactured mental health crises. It was all there, documented in faded papers and old legal notices. Your mother was married to Adrian's uncle? Eliana nodded, until Francesca decided she wasn't family material. Sound familiar? How did she do it? Same way she's doing it to you. First, she convinced my uncle that Mom was unstable. Then came the protective financial measures. Before Mom knew it, everything was in Francesca's name. Eliana's hands shook slightly. Mom had a breakdown, a real one, not the fake one Francesca orchestrated. She never recovered. I'm sorry, I said softly. Don't be sorry, be smart. She pulled out another document. This is what you really need to see. It's the family trust documentation, the one Adrian was never supposed to touch. I scanned the papers, my eyes widening. He used trust money for the house construction. Against explicit terms. That money was meant for his father's retirement. Liam doesn't even know it's gone. My phone buzzed, a text from Adrian. Where are you? We need to talk about yesterday. I ignored it. There's more, Eliana continued. Francesca's been moving money around for years. The offshore accounts? They're just the tip of the iceberg. She's been stealing from her own family for decades. Why are you helping me? Because someone needs to stop her. And you... She smiled. You might actually be capable of doing it. My phone buzzed again, this time from my lawyer, Chris. Vera, check your email, now. I pulled up my email to find a forwarded letter from Francesca's lawyer. My blood ran cold as I read it. They're claiming I'm mentally unstable, I said, showing Eliana. They're building a case for conservatorship. Of course they are. Eliana wasn't surprised. Let me guess, they're also hinting at possible infidelity? I nodded, reading further. They're saying I've been erratic and paranoid. Classic Francesca. She did the same to Mom, claimed she was having affairs, was mentally unfit, even planted evidence. Evidence? Fake hotel receipts, mysterious phone calls, staged photos. Be careful where you go, Vera. They're probably having you followed. As if on cue, I spotted Warren, Adrian's business partner, sitting 2 tables away, pretending to read a newspaper. Don't react, I whispered to Eliana. Warren's here. She didn't turn around. Good. Let him watch. Let him report back. It'll make what comes next even sweeter. What comes next? She pulled out one final document. This is a copy of every transaction between Warren's company and Francesca's accounts, including the ones they used your inheritance money for. My contact at the bank pulled these last night. I stared at the numbers. This This is massive fraud. Yes, and now you have proof. She stood up. Use it wisely, Vera, and watch your back. After she left, I sat there pretending to finish my coffee, aware of Warren still watching. My phone buzzed one more time. Francesca. Darling, I just heard the most disturbing rumor about you meeting with that troubled niece of mine. I do hope you're not letting her fill your head with lies. For your own good, perhaps we should discuss having you take a little rest. Somewhere quiet. I looked directly at Warren and smiled, raising my coffee cup in his direction. He quickly looked away. Thank you for your concern, I texted back to Francesca, but I'm exactly where I need to be. By the way, how's the IRS audit coming along? No response. Walking to my car, I called Chelsea. I need you to look into something, I said. A family trust that was drained without authorization, and I need to know exactly how much of my inheritance money ended up in Warren's company accounts. Already on it, she replied. And Vera? The IRS agent called. They're very interested in those offshore transfers. I smiled, starting my car. Perfect. Let's show them what happens when you try to bury someone who was born to bloom. Time to put on the performance of my life. I packed a small bag, left a tearful voicemail for Adrian about needing space to think, and checked into a small motel on the outskirts of town. Let them think I was having my predicted breakdown. In reality, I was working from a makeshift command center, surrounded by documents and laptops. Chris, my lawyer, sat across from me reviewing paperwork while Chelsea worked the numbers. They're getting sloppy, Chelsea said, highlighting another transaction. Look at this. They didn't even try to hide these transfers anymore. Francesca moved almost $500,000 through Warren's company last month alone. Using the house as collateral, Chris added. They're planning something big. My phone lit up with another concerned text from Adrian. Baby, please come home. We're all worried about you. Mom says she knows a great therapist. They're pushing the mental health angle hard, I said, showing them the message. Time to push back? Chris nodded. The paperwork's ready. One word from you, and I file everything. I took a deep breath. Do it. While Chris made the calls, I got an unexpected visitor, Gemma, our nosy neighbor from across the street from the new house. Vera, thank goodness I found you. She burst into the motel room, clutching her designer purse. You'll never believe what I saw last night. Gemma, how did you... Your sister told me where to find you. Listen, I was walking Precious, you know, my Pomeranian, and I saw Francesca at the house at midnight. She was in the home office, copying documents and shredding others, lots of others. Chelsea and Chris exchanged looks. Did you see what kind of documents? Chris asked carefully. Better. Gemma reached into her purse. I took pictures through the window, and this morning I went through their trash, don't judge me, and found these. She dumped a handful of shredded papers on the table. Gemma, I said slowly, I could kiss you right now. Chelsea was already examining the shreds. These are bank statements, and, is that a trust document? They're panicking, Chris said, making mistakes. My phone buzzed again, this time from a restricted number. The voicemail was from Liam, Adrian's father. Vera? I just found out what they did with my retirement trust. Adrian and his mother, they've gone too far. I want to help. Call me. Things were unraveling faster than I'd expected. I dialed Chris's office. Janet, send that injunction now. Yes, all of it. And call the press. Within hours, the story broke. Local news first, then regional. Prominent family accused of multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. The photos of Francesca shredding documents made the front page. Adrian showed up at the motel that evening, pounding on my door. Vera, open up! What have you done? I opened the door but blocked the entrance. Me? I think you mean what have you done, Adrian? The press is camping outside our house. Mom's getting death threats. They're saying we stole from Dad's retirement. Didn't you? He deflated slightly. It's not that simple. Actually, it is. I handed him a copy of the legal filing. Fraud is fraud, theft is theft, and karma? Well, karma's a bitch. Please, he whispered, we can fix this. Together. I'll make Mom put the house in your name. That's not going to work this time. I placed a hand on my stomach. I'm not just protecting myself anymore. His eyes widened as he understood. You're pregnant? Yes, and there's no way in hell I'm letting that child anywhere near your toxic family. But, Mr. Horton? Two men in suits approached. We're with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. We need you to come with us. I watched them lead him away, then called Francesca. Your son just left with the FBI, I said when she answered. They're probably heading to your house next. Better shred faster. You vindictive little... Oh, and Francesca, remember when you said I needed to be respectful to stay in the house? Turns out respect has to be earned, and you've earned exactly what's coming to you. I hung up and turned to Chris and Chelsea. What's next? Now? Chris smiled. Now we go for the kill. Chelsea held up the reconstructed documents from Gemma's trash run. And we've got all the ammunition we need. I looked at the growing media circus outside the motel and felt a fierce satisfaction. They thought they could break me. Instead, they broke themselves. The courthouse steps were packed with reporters when we arrived for the emergency hearing. Francesca stood at the top, playing the role of dignified victim perfectly in her designer suit and pearls. This is all a terrible misunderstanding, Shaw, she was telling a reporter. My daughter-in-law is troubled, and we've only tried to help. Is that why you forged documents? I called out, climbing the steps. To help? The reporters swung their cameras toward me. Francesca's practiced smile faltered. Vera, darling, you're looking better. Her eyes narrowed at my professional attire and calm demeanor. This wasn't the breakdown she'd been counting on. Amazing what happens when you stop gaslighting someone, I replied, loudly enough for the microphones to catch. Inside, Adrian sat with his lawyer, looking shell-shocked. Warren was there too, handcuffed and accompanied by federal agents. He'd cracked during questioning, spilling everything about the money laundering scheme. Mrs. Horton, the judge addressed Francesca. These allegations are extremely serious. Financial fraud, document forgery, misappropriation of trust funds. Your Honor, Francesca's lawyer interrupted. My client was merely protecting family assets. By stealing them? Chris stood up. We have documented evidence of Mrs. Horton transferring my client's inheritance money through multiple shell companies, ultimately using it to fund illegal operations through Mr. Wade's business. That's a lie, Francesca snapped. Actually, a new voice called from the back of the courtroom, it's not. Everyone turned. Liam walked in, looking older than his years. Dad? Adrian whispered. Your Honor, Liam said, approaching the bench. I'd like to testify about what my wife and son did with my retirement trust. Francesca went pale. Liam, don't you dare. I'm done protecting you, he cut her off. You stole my retirement. You destroyed my relationship with my sister's family. And now this? He gestured at the documentation. It ends today. The next hour was devastating. Liam detailed years of financial manipulation. Adrian slumped lower with each revelation. Francesca's perfect mask cracked completely. And there's more, Chelsea announced, standing. We've traced Mrs. Horton's offshore accounts. The money trail shows systematic theft going back decades. These are private family matters, Francesca shrieked. Tax evasion isn't private, an IRS agent commented from his seat. The judge had seen enough. This court grants an immediate injunction freezing all assets pending criminal investigation. The property in question will be returned to Mrs. Vera. Wait, I stood up. Before you rule, there's something else. I walked to Adrian, placing a document in front of him. What's this? He asked. Divorce papers and a paternity acknowledgement. His head snapped up. The baby is yours. And I'm making sure you sign away any custody rights before these criminal charges make you lose them anyway. Vera, please. Sign, Adrian, or I'll add your secret account in the Caymans to the investigation. His hand shook as he picked up the pen. Francesca lunged forward. Don't you dare sign that. We can still... Mrs. Horton, the judge barked, sit down or I'll have you removed. Adrian signed. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. One more thing, I said, turning to Francesca. Check your email. She pulled out her phone, face contorting as she read. You leaked our private correspondence to the press? She hissed. Just the emails where you mocked my stupidity while planning to steal my house and child. I smiled. The public loves a good villain, Francesca. Congratulations, you're trending. The judge's gavel came down hard. Enough! Property rights are hereby restored to Vera. Criminal investigations will proceed, and Mrs. Horton, you'll surrender your passport before leaving this courthouse. Outside, reporters swarmed again. This time, I was ready. Yes, my mother-in-law stole my inheritance and house, I told them. Yes, my husband helped her, and yes, I'm pressing full charges, because financial abuse is still abuse, and it's time someone stood up to wealthy people who think they can steal with impunity. Stella appeared at my side, linking her arm through mine. Ready to go home, sis? I looked back at Adrian and Francesca, surrounded by federal agents and reporters, their carefully constructed world crumbling. Actually, I said, I think I'll build a new home, one without their shadows in it. As we walked away, my phone buzzed with messages of support from other victims of Francesca's schemes over the years. Each one confirmed what I already knew. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning, it's making sure they lose everything they valued most, their reputation, their freedom, and their power to hurt anyone else. The final hearing fell on a crisp autumn morning, exactly 6 months after I'd discovered their betrayal. My baby bump was now visible under my court suit, a silent reminder of everything at stake. The courtroom was packed, not just with reporters, but with other victims who'd come forward after the story broke. Women Francesca had swindled, families she'd torn apart, all here to watch her fall. All rise, the bailiff called. Francesca and Adrian were led in wearing orange jumpsuits, a far cry from their designer clothes. Warren had already taken a plea deal, turning state's evidence against them both. Before we proceed, the judge began, does anyone wish to make a statement? I stood, one hand on my stomach. I do, Your Honor. Walking to the podium, I faced them directly for the first time in months. Adrian couldn't meet my eyes. Francesca glared with undisguised hatred. 6 months ago, I thought I'd lost everything, I began. My home, my marriage, my inheritance. But what you really tried to steal was my dignity, my sense of self. I pulled out the old napkin sketch of our dream home. This was drawn the night Adrian promised to build a life with me, a promise that meant nothing compared to his mother's control. Turning to the judge, I continued, the prosecution has proven the financial crimes, the fraud, the theft, the money laundering, but the real crime was the psychological warfare they waged. They tried to convince me I was crazy, unstable, unworthy. Lies, Francesca interrupted. You vindictive little... Mrs. Horton, the judge warned, one more outburst and you'll be removed. I held up the forensic accounting reports. The evidence shows they stole $3 million from me, but they also stole from Adrian's father, from his cousin Eliana's family, from countless others, each theft wrapped in a web of manipulation and gaslighting. Liam stood up from the gallery. She's right, Your Honor. My wife and son destroyed our entire family for money. Money they used to fund illegal real estate schemes, Chelsea added, approaching with more documents. We've uncovered 12 separate fraud operations spanning 2 decades. Adrian finally spoke, his voice broken. Mom, what did you make me do? Francesca whirled on him. Ungrateful child, everything I did was for you. No, he replied quietly. Everything you did was for control. The judge cleared his throat. Given the evidence presented and the defendant's lack of remorse, I'm ready to pronounce sentence. The room held its breath. Francesca Horton, this court sentences you to 15 years in federal prison. Adrian Horton, given your cooperation and secondary role, 8 years. Francesca lunged forward. You can't do this to me. Do you know who I am? A thief, I said clearly, a manipulator, and now a convicted felon. As they were led away, Adrian caught my arm. Vera, the baby. We'll never know you, I finished. That's the real sentence, Adrian. Knowing your child will grow up learning exactly who you chose to be. Outside, reporters clamored for statements. Eliana appeared beside me, linking her arm through mine. Mom would be proud, she said. You did what she couldn't. We all did, I replied, gesturing to the other victims. Together, Chris approached with final papers. The house is officially yours again, and the restitution payments will begin next month. Sell it, I said. Split the money between the victims' fund and my baby's future. And what about you? Stella asked, joining us. Where will you live? I smiled, pulling out a new sketch. I'm building again, a smaller house, but with a bigger heart. No shadows, no lies, just love. Later that evening, I visited Adrian one last time in custody. He looked small behind the glass. I never meant, he began. Save it, I cut him off. I'm not here for apologies. I'm here to show you something. I held up the ultrasound picture. A girl. She'll have your eyes, probably, but she'll have my strength, and she'll know that her mother fought back against people who tried to break her. Please, he whispered, don't keep her from me. You did that yourself, Adrian. Every time you chose your mother's schemes over our marriage, every time you helped steal from innocent people, every time you tried to make me doubt my sanity. I stood, gathering my things. The divorce is final. The restraining order is permanent. This is goodbye. Vera, his voice cracked. I did love you. No, I replied. You loved the idea of me. The quiet wife who wouldn't question your mother's control. But that woman never existed. And the real me? She's done being anyone's victim. Walking out into the sunset, I felt my daughter kick. It's okay, little one, I whispered. We're going home, our real home, the one we'll build together. The moving truck pulled away, leaving me alone in my new driveway. The house was smaller than the one Francesca stole, but every inch of it was mine, built with the restitution money, designed with love instead of lies. My phone buzzed, a news alert. Francesca Horton denied appeal. I smiled, deleting it without reading further. She wasn't worth my attention anymore. Need help unpacking? Stella called, walking up with a box of pictures. Though honestly, I'm more interested in helping you drink that wine I brought. Can't drink, I reminded her, patting my now prominent belly. But I'll watch you enjoy it. Inside, the afternoon sun streamed through windows I'd specifically designed to catch the light. No dark corners, no shadows. The walls were already filled with photos, not of the past, but of the future I was building. Mail came, Stella said, handing me an envelope. From Liam. I opened it carefully. Inside was a trust document and a letter. Dear Vera, I've spent my life watching Francesca destroy people. I helped her do it through action or inaction. This trust is for my granddaughter, not to make amends, but to ensure she never wants for anything. Use it to teach her what I failed to teach Adrian, that integrity matters more than money. Danao. Well, Stella asked. He set up a college fund. I placed the papers in my desk. And he's right, she'll learn about integrity, starting with this. I pulled out the old napkin sketch of the first house, now framed alongside the new house's plans. Different dreams, same determination. The doorbell rang. Eliana stood there with Chelsea and Chris, arms full of housewarming gifts. We come bearing presents and news, Chelsea announced. Warren's testimony led them to 3 more of Francesca's hidden accounts. The victims fund just grew by $2 million. Good, I said. More families can rebuild. Speaking of rebuilding, Chris added, Adrian's requesting another meeting? No, my voice was firm. He made his choices. Actually, Eliana interjected, he's asking to sign away any future claims to custody, voluntarily. Says he doesn't want his daughter to ever feel manipulated like he was. I touched my stomach, feeling a kick. Maybe Adrian had learned something after all. A car pulled up outside, Gemma, our star witness, still proudly nosy after all these months. You'll never guess what I heard, she called out, hurrying up the drive. Francesca's cellmate is that CEO she tried to swindle last year. Karma's got a sense of humor. We all laughed, moving to the kitchen where Stella was already opening wine for those who could drink it. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by plans and possibilities instead of schemes and secrets. Oh, I suddenly exclaimed, grabbing Stella's hand and placing it on my belly. Feel that? She's dancing. Strong kicks, Stella grinned, just like her mama. Speaking of strong, Chelsea said, raising her glass, a toast to Vera, who showed us all that the best revenge isn't just winning, it's thriving. And to new beginnings, Eliana added, built on truth this time. I looked around at these women who'd become my real family, the sister who never doubted me, the cousin-in-law who risked everything to help, the professionals who became friends, even nosy Gemma, whose midnight photos helped crack the case. The doorbell rang again. This time it was a delivery, a small package from my grandmother's old address. Inside was her journal, sent by a neighbor who'd found it during renovations. I opened it to the last entry. My dearest Vera, I'm leaving you more than money. I'm leaving you my strength. Use it wisely, build something beautiful, and never let anyone make you feel small. All my love, Grandma Rose. Tears pricked my eyes as I felt another kick. Your great-grandma was right, I whispered to my bump. We are strong, and we're going to build something beautiful together. What are you going to name her? Gemma asked. I smiled, looking at the framed napkin sketch. Rose, for the grandmother who gave me the means to build my first dream and the strength to build a better one. The setting sun painted the walls gold, warming the space we'd filled with laughter and truth. This house wasn't just a building, it was a statement, a declaration that sometimes losing everything means finding yourself. To Rose, my friends chorused, raising their glasses, and to Karma, I added softly, touching the journal. May it always find its way home. Outside, the garden I'd planted was already showing green shoots, like me, like little Rose, like all of us, growing stronger in the light, refusing to be buried in anyone's shadows. This was more than a happy ending. It was a new beginning, and this time we were writing our own story,